Investor, trader, builder.
Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. Now that means their savings are almost entirely tied to markets, policies and paper assets. And it may have very little protection if conditions change. We see how often that occurs. So if you're ready to adjust the risk in your portfolio, visit Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just answers and a custom investment strategy designed around your goal.
Right now, it is
the United States is 100 times stronger than any relationship that has ever existed between an American president and a prime minister of the state of Israel. In Operation Roaring Lion, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump set out together on this campaign to continue what we accomplished in Operation Rising Lion in June, to prevent Iran from developing nuclear capabilities and to prevent the regime from developing ballistic missiles that would threaten Israel, the United States, Europe, and the entire world. As President Trump says, Iran had plans of taking over the entire Middle East and completely obliterating the state of Israel. But just like the death of cult leader Ali Khamenei, those plans are now dead. Simultaneously, we are creating the conditions for the Iranian people, a historic and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take their fate into their own hands. By striking this regime and removing these existing threats, Prime Minister Netanyahu says the moment is approaching where they can embark on their new path of freedom. They asked for help, and help has arrived. As the Prime Minister has said to the Iranian people, we are standing by you, we are helping you, but at the time of day, it is up to you to seize the moment and take your destiny into your own hands. The Prime Minister has been clear. This is not an operation against the people of Iran. Strictly, it is targeting the terror regime who has held the Iranian people as hostages for 47 years.
Amen.
As we deal aggressive blows to the regime, their terror proxy and crime, Hezbollah, is threatening our citizens, our forces, and northern and central communities here in Israel every single day. Since Hezbollah chose to attack us, the IDF has conducted more than 1,100 strikes on them, including 190 strikes targeting the Radwan force, more than 200 strikes on missile and launcher targets, and hitting 35 command and control sites. Hezbollah will continue to pay a heavy price from attacking our people and our sovereignty, while they also continue to hold the people of Lebanon hostage. Just like the Ayatollah regime, Hezbollah is hiding strategic weapons in the heart of civilian populations, and they are using their people as human shields. Iran drags Lebanon into war in order to protect itself. Hezbollah has revealed its true face as a defender of Iran and the Ayatollah regime, not a defender of Lebanon. The people of Israel continue to show their resilience as they are strictly following the home front command instructions, entering the protected space time and time again. Adhering to this protocol, Israelis know they are saving lives and giving the backing and breathing room to achieve the goals of this very important operation. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Mrs. Sarah Netanyahu understand the spirit of our people is unbreakable, as they understand that Operation Roaring Lion is standing up to the Iranian regime's death cult that threatens our existence and peace in the world. Thank you.
And that was the Israeli government spokesperson Shosh Bedrosian giving that update just yesterday on Sunday. This is a live image we have over in Tel Aviv, Israel, but I want to bring us once again to the live image that we have in Beirut, Lebanon. This just coming in from the Associated Press as well. Lebanon's health ministry says an Israeli airstrike on the southern village of Kantara killed 4 people, including 2 children. This does come, as I said before, that the Israeli military has said it's expanding its ground operations there in Lebanon, and a part of them in Beirut. I want to bring into the conversation now Sinan Sidi. He is a senior fellow with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, and we're going to discuss all these developments. Sinan, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So you joined us yesterday. I just want to preface it by that because it brings me to the first question.
Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome my one faithful companion who's always here so far. Got my other camera set up because it's way better. It lets in more light. And I can pick it up and move it around. The other good, what I was using before was just the camera on my laptop. That's why it sucked. Anywho, even though you're the only one here, I'm not going to wait on everybody to get in here. I wanted to point out something about Bitcoin. I do believe this is a fool's run. You see, whenever you have meaningful gains in Bitcoin, let's change this to I don't know. Let's change this to 1 week candles, right? Whenever you have meaningful gains on Bitcoin, you don't see very much retracement to previous lows. Let me turn the indicators off so they aren't in the frickin' way. If I can figure out how to do it. Oh. Sorry, I'm like half awake here. Alright, each candle is a day. And this is the last year. That is some news coming tomorrow. Nothing to do with today. Now, what we're seeing is this run, right? It's it crossed over 75, right? Crossed over 76 on the candle. It was pushing 77 last night. You must be careful with this, because what I do believe is going to end up happening, we very well could run up above 80. And then if we run above 80, we will probably run all the way up to $100,000, believe it or not. Problem with that is like I said, when you have these a good strong run, you don't come right back down to the lows and then go on up. A good steady climb is a staircase that doesn't necessarily shit. I am like half here, trying to find some ways to draw some lines without having them be stupid lines. Anyway, we could very well see this run all the way up to $100,000. The thing about that is once it gets up there, and all the way up, you have some opportunities for some shorts, actually. And the only way it's going to run way on up there is if the shorts overpower the longs. You know what I mean? Like if there's more shorts in the market than longs, because that's where all the liquidity goes, and these charts always follow liquidity. There's a, you know what? I will pull up a video that I found that will explain this better than me, because I am half asleep. The coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Meh. Let me pull this video up, because this guy, there's always someone smarter than yourself, right? Well, this guy's been sleeping and breathing Bitcoin since it came around. So I will always put my trust in those that are more intelligent than myself, rather than just try and reiterate what he said. I will just put it on, baby. By all means, go subscribe to him. I don't think he's on Rumble.
What if you could see the biggest options trades the moment they hit the market? This ready-to-run scale.
Right.
I am getting ready to play a video from a guy that I respect very much with his charts. He is a Bitcoin genius, and by all means, go subscribe to him if you want. He's got a much better grasp of some of these things. I'm just getting it all set up here. Don't mind me. I am preparing this up, so what I'm going to do is jam my thumb in his butthole now. Do you know what that's from? That's South Park episode where they made fun of Steve Irwin. Alright. Going to put some Schwab on.
And Reuters covered it, but really I haven't
And
seen...
being that it is so early, I am going to have me another smoke, and when I come back, I will play the video that I am talking about. And I need to do some sharing anyway. It is early. I'm tired. The meds haven't kicked in quite yet. I am going to go have a smoke. And when I get back, yeah. In case you're wondering what this thing is down here, that, not the smiley face, but that right there, that is my own design. Dump the dollar. Bitcoin is the way. You see it right there? I got it on my hoodie. That's my design, baby. I'm probably more proud of this than I should be, but I like it. I had it put on the hoodie and it's embroidered, so like you can feel it and it won't fade. I've washed it. Like I've washed this thing like 10 times, and it's like one of those really soft hoodies. It's not, you know, it's not one of those shit hoodies that you pay $60 for with some people and like, you know, it fades as soon as you wash it. Nah, it is a cream color. Oh yeah, and it's got Bitcoin on the sleeve. I personally think that's pretty damn cool. Happy St. Patty's Day! I should get drunk on stream, huh? I'll tell you what. If I get 10 likes, I'll get drunk with you guys. But until then, I'm gonna go have me a smoke. That right there, that's my hat. I had this one made too. That's my design, baby. I got me one of them Bitcoin buttons put on here, wherever it is. I know it's there somewhere. I know it's there somewhere. Oh, wrong side, right there. I feel like such a prick when I put this stuff up and I like talk about it. I feel like I'm just a soulless shill. I mean, you can buy all this stuff. I don't care if you do, because I literally make like $1 off of it. It's just something I did because I could. Made a bunch of designs, a bunch of different things, but you can get all of those designs and stickers, and yeah, it would really support the channel. But like I said, I don't make very much off of it. It's like literally, that money literally goes to like feed my cat. It doesn't amount to very much. But there's some really cool stuff. I've got a couple of coffee mugs. I've got one coffee mug and hoodies and shirts that just say "eat shit" on them. And then I've got a mug in there that says don't talk to me until after the market opens. And then of course there's several oversized mugs in there, and one of them just says "Bitcoin is the way." And then there's several different designs of like, they're all white, but the inside of the mug you can change the color of, which is pretty cool, I thought. And I have one. I just it's packed up because I sold my house recently. And then of course, if you've been with this channel long enough, you know I then lost my ass because I invested the majority of that money, and now I'm sucking it bad. Anywho, I am going to leave on what you want to watch, man. You're the only one here. Should we leave on Schwab?
Coming to the economic.
No. We're going to leave on.
For example, people believe this to be obviously a temporary effect relative 1 year.
And when I come back, we will discuss Bitcoin and where I think it's gonna go, where it is obviously, where it's obviously headed. It's not good. But why is this? Yeah, you see, I usually spend a few minutes before I get before I go live fixing all this stuff that I am now doing. So I do thank you for your patience. As I resize stuff and get it all straight. Because at the same time, I'm over here, looking at it and making sure that it looks good on your screen. How about we leave on... Where's Fox News? Where are you at, Fox News? Oh, they're in a commercial. Imagine that. Okay. Newsmax or Fox News? Newsmax or Fox News? I'm going to leave on Newsmax because they have no commercials at the moment. I'm sure they'll be right back with commercials.
For failing to act.
Right.
Morgan Stanley is warning that private credit default rates will hit 8% as AI continues disrupting the software industry. The bank saying that while AI disruption has yet to impact private credit fundamentals in a material way, elevated leverage and looming maturity walls within the software sector may push default rates to levels not seen since the pandemic. And JP Morgan is planning to add hundreds of jobs in Boston after agreeing to become the anchor tenant in the city's newest skyscraper. The bank expects to hire about 300 employees in commercial banking, private banking, and institutional sales and marketing over the next several years. That's your Bloomberg Brief. John?
Yahara, thank you. More from Yahara later this hour. Up next on the programme, the morning calls, plus Gil Luria of D.A. Davidson on NVIDIA's $1 trillion forecast. That conversation up next, live from New York City this morning. Good morning.
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg Television?
That's a great question.
It's a very good question.
Interesting question. Good question. Great question. I so appreciate that question. You certainly ask interesting questions.
Bloomberg Television. Top experts, great questions.
The trading day is about to start.
And you're already looking for that edge.
The opening trade brings you everything you need to know as markets open across Europe.
Let's talk about the significant risk transfers to find space in their balance sheet.
Hedging some of that risk.
You could look at it the other way. Obviously, this stuff is risk-weighted.
I would much rather be long than be short.
We're in a kind of sweet spot.
Very, very strong alignment.
3 revolutions in one.
I'm Guy Johnson.
I'm Anna Edwards.
And I'm Tom McKenzie.
This is your opening trade.
Every trading day, only on Bloomberg.
Astonishing day for US technology.
Shaping the region's technology ecosystem.
Asia's biggest tech news and innovation.
I think trying to forecast the path of this Middle East conflict is incredibly difficult. It's fraught with difficulty. But what I will say is that it once again highlights US exceptionalism in different formats. Of course, if it goes on for a long period of time, yes, then of course all bets are off and we would probably expect a significantly lower move in risk assets.
That was Alex Altman of Barclays. Constructive for the equity market, more balanced, I would say, coming from the man from Barclays. Encouraged by summer headlines that are coming out of the airline industry so far this morning. Delta Airlines, American Airlines, forecasting a better outlook for the first quarter. The first quarter so far, consumers engaging, corporate America engaging. It's an early read on things right now, but a better read of what's happening in this economy, given the risks elsewhere. Things can change quickly, but so far, so good. Equities turning higher off the back of some of these headlines. Equity futures positive by about 0.1% on the S&P 500. On the Nasdaq, just about unchanged. That's the price action. Let's get you some morning calls. First up, Mizuho raising its price target on Chevron to 217, citing higher global oil prices as a positive for the sector. HSBC raising its price target on Johnson & Johnson to 280, saying geopolitical risk and an uncertain macro backdrop could boost the sector. And finally, Stifel reiterating its 250 price target and buy rating on NVIDIA, expecting its longer-term opportunity funnel could exceed $1 trillion. Sticking with NVIDIA, the chip maker making a big prediction.
Right here where I stand, I see through 2027 at least $1 trillion.
The CEO, Jensen Huang, making a bold prediction as computing demand soars. Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow joins us now for more. Ed, welcome to the program. I asked this question earlier. Help us out. 1 trillion what? What's he talking about?
Extended visibility for demand into another year. You know, it's as simple as that, really. The 1 trillion is for a range of 2025 through the end of calendar 2027. The prior outlook was $500 billion of demand specifically for Blackwell and Rubin systems, and it included networking. And that was essentially from October through to the end of calendar 26. The difficulty is when that number hit, and you saw it in the market reaction, right? You know, NVIDIA really surged, took the indexes with it, but Wall Street quickly did the math and it came back down. They didn't include those same qualifiers. They weren't explicit on stage or through a regulatory filing about the composition of what's in the 1 trillion. So it's basically cumulative expected sales. And, you know, the thing that bow ties it, the important point is that they still believe they'll be supply constrained in that period. The way that Jensen Huang put it on stage is they'll be short. And the story being that demand through NVIDIA's lens is very much intact.
Based on what I just heard from you, Ed, that sounds like it was heavy on marketing and low on substance. What was the big takeaway from yesterday?
Yeah, I think mostly the supply constraint. You know, NVIDIA argues two things. That it tells its supply chain and customers many years in advance what it's going to do. And that's true. So they have time to plan for it. Within that $1 trillion forecast, there was an associated pie chart next to it, which showed that 60% of that buying is going to still be the hyperscalers, the cloud computing companies. And that's something that's been very closely watched, because if you look at the sell side reaction, NVIDIA is basically a leading indicator that CapEx in the short term will hold up, if its numbers are to be believed. The issue, and I think you guys just showed the pre-market move in the stock price relatively muted. That 1 trillion is very close to consensus anyway. So it doesn't really move the needle in terms of trajectory. It just gives a bit more certainty to lots of people's mind on what the biggest deployers of capital expenditures are going to do. On the other hand, you know, NVIDIA keeps telling us that we're supply constrained. They won't be able to get hold of enough GPUs to meet the demand that's out there. Which is a good problem for them to have, but for the rest of the industry, difficult to model for.
Ed, good to see you. Thanks for dropping by and updating us. Looking forward to the programme later. Bloomberg Technology coming up a few hours from now on Bloomberg TV. Gul Luria of D.A. Davidson has a buy rating and a 250 price target on shares of NVIDIA. Gil joins us now for more. Gil, welcome. You heard Ed talking about it there, supply constrained. Is that a good problem to have?
Well, not for NVIDIA. And in fact, they're working very hard to help all the other participants in the ecosystem figure it out so they can sell more chips. NVIDIA's biggest problem right now is that everybody is not catching up to demand as well as they are. And so they've actually gone as far as organizing the whole supply chain around what they're calling an AI factory, which is to say they're going to start coordinating all of the different participants in building out data centers on their platform so they can be more coordinated, so there won't be as many delays in data centers. If there is not a warm shell in a data center ready for GPUs, they can't sell GPUs. So now NVIDIA, beyond just making its own product, has to help everybody else make their product in time so they can sell more GPUs.
Gil, did it bother you that we don't have a lot of clarity around this $1 trillion number that was massive but didn't really offer much visibility?
You know, I'll take the other side of that, which is to say for the longest time, NVIDIA just guided 1 quarter at a time. And that meant that investors didn't really have that much visibility going forward. In October, they extended that for 12 to 15 months. And now they're extending it out another 12 months. That's actually very helpful. Now, is it a specific number with qualifications? Maybe not. But keep in mind, consensus estimates for next year were $460 billion, and he just added $500 billion. So it doesn't matter how you qualify that number. That means that NVIDIA expects to grow more than 30% next year, not just this year, but next year. But part of the problem is the market is not believing it. If NVIDIA is trading at 22, 23 times earnings, which is basically a market multiple, and on the very low end of their historical multiple range, that tells you the market just doesn't believe it. And Jensen Huang is pushing rope. He could have said $2 trillion for next year, and the market's just not believing it. Now, he has a lot of credibility. He's gained it over the years, but the market is saying we are skeptical that this great data center build out will continue into next year. The good news for NVIDIA shareholders is the closer we get to that, the more NVIDIA can show that it is actually going to grow into next year, that's the upside to the stock.
What was Olaf doing on stage with Jensen Huang?
They were trying to illustrate that humanoid robotics and other types of robotics are making huge leaps forward. So they brought Olaf from Frozen to life. They had a music video recap. It was a very high production event yesterday. NVIDIA is expanding well beyond the GPU. That's the big takeaway from day one of GTC, is that really up until now it's been GPU and CUDA and maybe networking, and now they've expanded that a lot. So multiple software options, multiple networking options. They're going to start selling CPUs individually, and the most important takeaway from yesterday is the addition of the Grok chip into their data center systems. That will bring them to such a level of inference productivity that's going to extend their lead over Broadcom and AMD. That's the biggest takeaway, because there were a lot of concerns that, oh, Broadcom, AMD catching up with GPUs, custom GPUs, ASICs. And what NVIDIA just did is, by integrating Grok, they're saying, no, we're going to extend our lead. The cost per token on our platform for inference is going to be a fraction of everybody else. The productivity per second for inference is going to be much better than our competitors. So that was the big news yesterday.
Gil, appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. Gil Lurie there of D.A. Davidson. I'm struggling to find what the takeaways were from yesterday, given your question.
That was Lisa's takeaway.
Well, I was just really struck by the fact that they had this whole build-up about the creation of robot Olaf and then bring it to the stage. The takeaway was ultimately they're moving into robotics, they're moving into self-driving vehicles, they're moving into deploying this in some sort of cheaper version throughout a broader swath of the economy. That's the goal. That's how they get to $1 trillion. A lot of the other details kind of not exactly
Market's
clear.
just not buying it at the moment.
Yeah.
Stock really has stalled. That rally has stalled out big time over the last 4 months. NVIDIA this morning higher by 0.2%. Up next, Greg Dacko of EY Parthenon on tomorrow's rate decision, and Danny with your morning movers, the airlines in focus.
Tune in to Bloomberg Business Week Daily.
We got to talk crypto.
From the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead.
What's the conversation around your company?
Bringing you insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex economy.
Planning very big things.
A new level of premium.
Plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens.
The floodgates of innovation are going to open up.
You can't fake passion. You either are or you aren't.
Bloomberg Business Week Daily, only on Bloomberg. From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute geopolitical news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Stephen Engel at Japan's Akasaka Palace in Tokyo, and this is Bloomberg.
Welcome to the world of decentralized finance.
Why is it that NFTs have not recovered in the same way that, say, Bitcoin has?
Bloomberg is covering all things crypto.
It's a pretty spectacular story.
The people.
This is the future. This is the 21st century economy.
The transactions.
It snapped up nearly $1 billion of Bitcoin.
And the technology.
We need to build a digital Fort Knox.
That gives people financial freedom, and that's a wonderful thing.
That's extraordinary.
We ride the wave that is Bitcoin.
Bloomberg Crypto, only on Bloomberg.
The airlines in focus this morning, the equity market turning higher off a better outlook from the airline industry. We'll get to those names in just a moment. Futures positive by 0.1% on the S&P and on the Russell, the small caps turning around. We were negative across the board about an hour ago. That's turned around in the last 60 minutes. Let's get you some single names, some morning movers. Danny has more. Hey, Danny.
John, let me get you those airlines. Again, the results looking strong for all of them, despite the fact that there are higher fuel prices and concerns about consumer appetite. It is there. Delta, JetBlue, American Air, all of them pointing to a more positive outlook to come. Yes, fuel prices are up, but that is not stopping spending. Just looking at Delta, for example, it now sees its revenue growth in the first quarter between 7 and 9%. Previously, 7% was the high end of expectations. So that's a positive sign. Elsewhere, Uber and Lyft, both the rideshare companies, are moving on the upside. Both of them announcing a partnership with NVIDIA to expand an autonomous vehicle fleet of cars using their technology. Uber looking to expand into Los Angeles and San Francisco. Finally, wrapping things up with the company that was also on the upside yesterday, Nebius. This is the Neo Cloud. Yesterday, we learned that Meta had signed one of their biggest ever single contracts with the company to use more of their facilities. Nebius this morning putting into the market a just under $4 billion convertible debt offering, a dilutive event, so that tends to move shares lower. So they are moving lower, just under 7% this morning in the pre-market, John.
Danny, thank you. Looking forward to the show alongside Matt Miller, Danny Berger, at about 9 a.m. Eastern Time, guiding you into the open about. We're overweighting the headlines coming out of the Middle East for good reason. They're important. The airlines have been beaten up over the past few weeks with higher fuel costs in mind. This update from them is really, really important. Consumers still engaging with travel, not backing away. Corporate America's not disengaging either. This headline, they see surging demand for corporate travel across sectors.
To me, this is arguably one of the better tells on the overall economy, understanding that, yes, the people who choose to fly tend to be higher income, so it isn't necessarily representative of the overall average economy. Nonetheless, the confidence that people have to travel and the fact that everyone who I talk to in the business world is traveling that much more because of the uncertainty, not necessarily less, gives you a sense of why some people are saying, hold on a second, are things really as bad as expected? Alex Altman saying that the increase in oil prices hasn't had the pass-through, negative pass-through to the U.S. economy as much as people had expected.
They're weathering the storm right now, but still, this headline that they saw a $400 million spike in fuel costs in March, if this continues, can medium and heavy crude, more than half of that percent, more than 50% of that, that is to make jet fuel. These prices are going to go up higher, like we see in diesel today in the United States, above $5 a gallon. At what point does then it start to hurt?
Hi, Delta.
Yeah. Right. Is this the Prime Minister again? Are we really about the conflict in the Middle East? We've been listening to him an awful lot, have we not? Let's see what he's saying.
And obviously, we need to look at the options. We've already got
autonomous mine hunting systems in the regions. We're looking at options and expertise, but working with our allies on that. In relation to the bigger picture, look, my instinct, my first priority is to protect people in relation to the cost of living, and that's why we put in measures that are already there, the capping of energy bills, and to be really clear, because I know people are worried about this, that is in place until the end of June. It's actually a cut, because that's what we put in place at the budget, and then a cap in a fuel duty through to September, and the announcement today in relation to those that heat their homes through oil, which is a big issue in rural communities and a very big issue in places like Northern Ireland, putting that in place straight away. As to what might happen in 3 months or 6 months, I'm not going to stand here and pretend to you that we all know what the situation will be in 3 or 6 months' time. We don't. The best way through this is to de-escalate and reduce the conflict, because that is the simple, most effective way to deal with the cost of living, and that's where we're putting our all of our focus. But look, you heard what I said about my instinct, and obviously we'll always do whatever we can in relation to the cost of living for working people. Thank you, Chris. Robert, I think I'll come to you next.
Robert Beston, ITV. President Trump wants you to commit the Royal Navy now to keeping the Straits of Hormuz open. I think you're saying no to that. Is that right?
I think you're saying no.
Separately, you'll have seen the picture that ITV published of Epstein with Mandelson and the former Prince Andrew in their dressing gowns. Why, in Jonathan Powell's words, did you rush that appointment, given that Karen Pierce was prepared to stay for a few months, and that's what the US president wanted?
Let me deal with the Straits of Hormuz, because obviously that's one of the pressing issues of the day. It's something I discussed with President Trump yesterday on the phone.
Yeah, really.
There have been discussions going on in relation to a viable plan. We want to make sure that that involves as many partners as possible. That's been our stated objective here, particularly talking to European partners, inevitably talking to Gulf partners, and to the US, because we need a credible, viable plan if we can. And as I said a moment ago, this is, to say the least, not easy. It is not straightforward, and therefore we have to make sure that we've got that credible plan in place. As to what the precise options are, as I say,
right.
Hunting systems.
Every 5 likes I get, I'll take a shot.
We've already spoken
It
about
is St. Patrick's
what
Day.
we can do in relation to anti-drone
And that's
capability.
right.
But this isn't just about what the UK can do, it's about how we play a part in bringing others together behind a viable plan. So that's where we're at the moment. Well, we're looking through the options. It is difficult, of course. It's difficult. There's no hiding that. But that's what we're working on in terms of a viable plan, because ultimately we need to get the Straits opened. Otherwise, the price of energy will remain very high for reasons that everybody understands. So it's part and parcel of what we're doing on the cost of living. In relation to Mandelson, look. The independent advisor has looked at the tail end of last week at the process we went through, and he said it was the proper process. Look, the process wasn't strong enough, and that's why last year I moved to strengthen the process, and we'll strengthen it again. My reflection is the process wasn't strong enough. The process was followed, but was the process strong enough? No, it wasn't. Now,
is it just
I
me,
recognise that.
or does this
back in
guy
September,
say a whole bunch of
when
nothing?
the Bloomberg emails came to light? And it was then that I started the process of strengthening it, and will continue to do so. Thank you, Robert. Beth, can I come to you?
Yeah, thank you. We're listening in here as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is taking some questions from the press after holding a news conference earlier on today. We'll be right back.
Yeah. We'll be right back, will you? Yes. All right. I'll cut those guys off and see what they're saying over on Schwab. Yes, I know how to properly pronounce it. I just like
Iran.
saying
Of
Schwab.
course, there are attempts by Iran to do this, but not that many missiles and drones come through at the
Forgot
same
my
time.
coffee.
You know, we live in a day and age where we as journalists, but everybody really should have the same instinct. And it's a pity, really, that we have to look at videos and photos, but also at news items, depending on where they're coming from. And we have to have the instinct to, first of all, have a lot of doubt about them, ask ourselves, is this AI potentially, or is this real? That, of course, takes away a lot of the wonder and surprise in life. Of course, this is not appropriate for images coming from a war, but, we just have to have that element of doubt always with everything coming out of Iran, coming out of all other countries, because AI is not a national phenomenon, really, is it?
Yeah. Well, thanks for reporting in a trustworthy manner for our viewers right here at Newsmax. Thanks so much, Philip Crowther.
Yeah.
Coming up, more on the wild weather that swept across the country overnight.
Meteorologist Amy Metz joins us after the break.
Rumble keeps on failing. Oh. All right. So far for pre-market, we are looking pretty good. Don't be fooled though, guys. I do believe we've got a big crash coming. Somewhere between 20 and 50%. I'm going to queue up a video I want to play. In the meantime, we'll just keep on. No, I don't want. I'm so sick of this British Prime Minister guy. Let's see what old Bloomberg has to say. Give me some time to queue up this here video I want to play. Listen to the Bloomberg for a minute.
Is how the statement will be framed.
There's
going to be more focus on downside risk to employment, upside risk to inflation. But let's not forget, in the minutes from the January meeting, there was a very close call as to whether we would have a two-sided statement, putting back on the table the possibility of rate hikes. That should not be discounted in this environment.
Do you think that's warranted? I mean, if you look at history, oil price shocks typically are disinflationary or outright deflationary over the long term. It typically torpedoes growth when it is for a prolonged period of time at a certain level. And I'm talking more 150 than $100 a barrel in today's world. Do you think that it is appropriate for them to put a rate hike back on the table?
I don't think it would be appropriate right now, but I think we have to consider the environment in which we've been evolving over the last few years. I wrote a recent note on the FOMC saying once burned, twice cautious. And the memory of the burn from 2021 and 2022, when the Fed said the tariff shock and the post-COVID shock were going to be transitory, was essentially misguided because we saw this pervasive inflationary environment. Today, we are in an environment where there are a number of supply constraints.
Yeah, there sure are. All right, I'm going to play this here video. It gives a good prediction of where Bitcoin is going, and I fully agree with this guy. The man is brilliant. I love him to death. I watch him all the time. Like I said, feel free to subscribe to him. He doesn't do YouTube to get paid. He makes plenty of money with Bitcoin.
Longer, made millions of dollars in this game even before Bitcoin was a thing. Now, this is the last level I told everyone to get long at, to go back to $74,000. This hasn't even been changed. Now, 74K, we're here, and we're actually breaking it as we speak. I said 74 and then back down. We actually did get resistance first. Let me move this out of the way just to make it nice and clear for you. I'll put it back there so all the freaking haters can't tell me that I didn't predict it. But guys, 74K is the level at resistance. So actually, right now, guys, it's a hedged short position. If you didn't, okay, the only way you get into a long now, guys, if you break above it and you see it as support. We know SR trading, very similar to when we broke above this level, we came back down to it as support, you got to the long there. We do not play breakout trading. You don't go long now at resistance. It's actually a hedged short position just in case the price actually falls down and loses this level. If we went here, back up, see resistance, lower high, actually, guys, the price of Bitcoin could continue to fall. And I did actually say it's probably a higher probability of going lower if we don't get an ascending formation. But right now, guys, we have an ascending formation. We have higher lows coming into this all the way up. Actually, this is looking pretty good. It's a even higher low, which is very, very good to see. And 74K, guys, is still the resistance. But if you're trading, guys, you've missed this long. You have to get into the positions on SRs, SR flips. You can't just long the support. And you can't just freaking sell the resistance. It needs to be the other way. So now I have to wait for this. If you missed it, you move out. You're buying it as support. It's actually a resistance zone now. So if we do see, you want to sell actually in short right now. If you're already in the long, perfect. You're long and you're short. Now, 74K is very significant because of this simple reason, guys. prior SR shows 74K is here. This was actually the last major swing low before we broke down. Now, if we get back above it, it's going to be very good for the price of Bitcoin, because what you're going to see is quite likely, Leggies, we're going to come and see some higher time frame targets. If we break this, guys, 80K is very likely. Then we have the yearly open and then the 200-day moving average in confluence, potentially with some resistance. Now, let me zoom in on this to give you a bit more of a better picture on this. Sorry, guys, I just ate some food, so if I burp, I'm really sorry. Had a massive meal. So, basically, guys, $80,000 is here. That's the first level of resistance. Then we have the yearly open, which I actually said, guys, previously, if we lose the yearly... When we were up here, guys, trading up here... Sorry, guys, I got a really crazy... I had a freaking spicy meal. Spicy like these charts, eh? So, guys, here... I said if we lose the yearly open when we were trading up here, I said it's very likely we're going to go significantly lower. This bearish formation, channel up, and bear flag would play out. We get a measured move. Now, we did get that, guys. I said the yearly open, if we lose it, we go significantly lower. We still have that exact potential chance now, but it's the March open. If we lose the March open and this support, guys, it's going to look exactly the same. It's literally probably going to do something exactly the same and go lower. Okay, that's the formation you're looking for. You want to spot this on Bitcoin, and there will be opportunities there. Actually, if you head short right now, you've already got into that in case it happens. So the yearly open would be another area of resistance. And guys, head shorts are this. On the way up, you short 80 with your eyes closed. You short the yearly open with your eyes closed, and also the 200-day moving average with your eyes closed. Because I do think, guys, if we get a sucker's rally, however high we go, I do think, just turning for some predictions, we will actually go lower than this wick again at some point. Big statement, big prediction. I do think if the price comes up here, we will actually go below here again at some point. Now, that can change depending. If we go to $100,000, then we come to 74, and then we rally, and then we break that high, that invalidates that thesis, okay? That's the invalidation, but we'll go into that. You know, you guys track my videos anyway. But guys, I do think if we get above 74, which we are looking like we are doing now, we're going to have a clean break up to around 100K. I don't think we go much higher than 100K on this specific move. I do think it'll be resistance first, maybe to 74. Whoops, don't want to move that around. And then if we get resistance and we hold 74, then yeah, I will then say that in that thesis of going lower is then invalidated. Because
right. So basically, we are likely going to run up to somewhere between 75 and 80. And if it holds above the 80, then we'll continue to run on up to 100,000. But the likelihood of that is not very good. Because as you can see, when you have such big retracements down like this, just because you're starting to rally, it doesn't mean it ain't going to end very soon. This is what he called a sucker's rally that I do agree with. Now, you can make some money on it. You want to play some contracts, you can make some money on it. But understand your most significant levels. 74,000 is a very significant level. It is some serious resistance, but as soon as it breaks through, that resistance becomes support, right? So once it breaks through there and holds it, 80,000 is the next destination. And then the same can be said about 80. If it breaks through and holds that, then $100,000 is where we're probably going to go. But like he said, will it hold? Probably not. Probably not. So you've got some long and some short opportunities here.
Because that's how we trade these markets. Now, guys, in terms of the longs, let me just go through the trades because I'm analyzing. So the trades are this. There is already long that I got into. If we come back to it now, there is another long. And also the wick I will probably leave. And then the 52 is the next level down, guys. I'm not going to bother going down there. 52 is the next level down. So those are the longs. You've missed this long. If it comes into 80 and sees resistance, then you can long 74, which is this level here. Then we can actually get a long there. You know how it works, guys. You're looking for the ladder up, okay? Head short here, 80. The yearly open is actually about 87. And then 100K or the 200-day moving average. I'm going to freaking burp again, Leggies. I'm sorry, but it's been a crazy... It's hot, man. Spicy up in here. So there's the levels, legends, and the level on the way down. You've missed that first trade, like I did say, guys. This would...
Right. So you get what you get it. You get what he's saying. Okay, I can only play somebody else's videos so much. So that's that. So today we are watching this well, what it's looking like now is about 74 in the mid 74 areas. These these support and resistance are actually order blocks. And if you know anything about anything, Bitcoin tends to follow the money. Wherever you've got the most positions, that's the direction it's going to go. So if you've got a lot of longs, then it's inclined to go down. Okay? Follow the logic? Yeah, it's okay if you don't, but it's because it is kind of confusing. All right, moving on. Our silver futures are looking like dirt. Our oil futures are looking relatively the same. I'm pretty sure the market is just waiting to see what's going to happen in the Strait of Hormuz. Ethereum broke above it broke above its 30-day, I think. I don't have the line on here, but it did. The dollar came down from that 100 mark, and we are just screwing around for pre-market. It's looking like we've got about 40 minutes ish until the market bell. Drop a ticker symbol in the chat, and I will be happy to take a look at what's going on. See what these jerks are talking about.
Which will prevent
here.
Threats to the region into the future. Here you see a photo from March 1st of a naval drone storage facility located near the Strait of Hormuz. This is the same location 8 days later, completely destroyed. Next, here's a photo taken of an attack drone production factory in Tehran on March 5th. Here's that same factory 6 days later after a devastating barrage of U.S. airstrikes. And finally, the Yazdi military depot, pictured here last month. These 8 buildings are part of the IRGC's missile command infrastructure and are used to produce light and heavyweight torpedoes. Now, here's that same military depot just last week, or what's left of it.
Nice.
U.S. and partner strikes are doing exactly what they are intended to do, deliver on very clear military objectives to eliminate Iran's ability to project power against Americans and against its neighbors. We're also zeroed in on dismantling Iran's decades-old threat to the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz. Through a combination of air, land, and maritime capabilities, we have successfully destroyed over 100 Iranian naval vessels, and we aren't done. We will continue to rapidly deplete Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Our progress remains steady, and we remain vigilant against the enemy. Now, a few thoughts about Iran. Over the last 2 weeks, they have launched attacks on Oman, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan, Cyprus, Turkey, Azerbaijan, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain. In each of these countries, they are deliberately attacking innocent civilians. They've done this more than 300 times, which demonstrates their true nature as a global leader of terror. In just the last few days, the Iranian regime launched a reckless attack against civilian neighborhoods in Tel Aviv with cluster bombs, an inherently indiscriminate type of munition. We join countries across the region in condemning this aggression, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners in bolstering our own defenses. In sum, I will reinforce what I've said before. Iran's capabilities are declining as our capabilities and advantages continue to build. And finally, I'd like to talk about the extraordinary 50,000 Americans who are deployed across the region executing this vital mission.
Wow, 50,000.
It's long been my belief that every success we have begins and ends with our people. And today I'd like to recognize our unsung heroes, the sustainers enabling America's joint force to unleash this devastating firepower 24/7. To be clear, there's no other military on earth that does logistics like the U.S. military, and our team is at the top of their game today. They're managing distribution networks that span thousands of miles to ensure that munitions, fuel, and supplies reach warfighters on the front line on time, every time. To all our sustainers and logisticians, thank you and keep up the great work. And to the entire Operation Epic Fury team, keep pushing, remain steady, fight to win. Thanks so much and Godspeed.
And that video was just posted by U.S. Central Command just moments ago on their social media pages. It was an update on Operation Epic Fury. Bringing us out to the live image that we have over in Beirut, Lebanon, I just want to recap some of the major sticking points given this conflict there in the Middle East. Now, President Trump has said that he has demanded that about 7 countries send warships to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. We also continue to have a live image, this radar system showcasing some of the activity there in the strait right now. Now, the president says that the U.S. is negotiating with countries that are heavily reliant on Middle East crude to join a coalition to police that waterway. It also comes as Gulf Arab states, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain, reported new missile or drone attacks after Iran called for the evacuation of 3 major points in the UAE. Major ports, excuse me. It's the first time it has threatened a neighboring country's non-U.S. assets. Also, Dubai International Airport has gradually resumed some flights after a drone struck a fuel tank, causing a fire. Authorities said it was quickly contained and no injuries were reported. I want to go out to some of the latest breaking news and headlines from here, specifically in the U.S., and we are going to be talking about air travel. Now, we know that a lot.
Okay, I'm going to go over to this.
Is a U.S. citizen.
Do you have an ID yourself? I do. I have an ID.
Of course I have a driver's license.
Would you know where to get your birth certificate? I mean, I have mine.
Democrats are stupid.
Yeah, this whole discussion about, just shut up. It's not that difficult to go get a birth certificate. In fact, myself, my son, and a friend of mine, we're planning on going to Thailand. So we had to get passports. Well, you had to get your birth certificate to do that. All 3 of us had to go get our birth certificates and then went and got our passports. Let me tell you how long it took and how hard it was to get our birth certificate. My friend was from Florida, so we weren't even from the same state. He wasn't. We were. It took about 30 minutes each time. If that. I think when I got mine, it was really like 15 minutes. It cost $20. And then going to get our passport, that took a little bit longer, but that's to be expected. They got to take a picture. You got to have the paperwork. It's not that big of a deal. The people that are fighting this are only fighting it because something Donald Trump. You know, if their people were doing it, we all know it'd be reversed.
Colin said you have to wear socks that honor the Taoiseach, and so I wore some Shamrock socks. I have a different pair of Shamrock socks here today. Now, I did that knowing that when we met the president later with the Taoiseach in the Oval Office, I'd be sitting down, he'd see my socks, and he would bust my chops about the fact that I was not wearing boring black socks, but I had these bright white Shamrock socks. So we have a slightly more muted Shamrock, but we're going to see if the president notices in the Oval Office when we go to visit him in a couple of hours. But let me just say, we are thrilled to have you. Very, very grateful for your friendship and very, very grateful for everything that unites the people of Ireland with the United States of America. So God bless you. Taoiseach Martin.
So what? We got what? Ireland?
Thank you very much.
I genuinely do not care. Do your thing, bruh.
Stretched out the door this morning as Democrats continue to force our patriotic TSA officers to work without pay for the 3rd time in nearly 6 months. Now, John, I've had you on the program before for a similar issue, another partial government shutdown that affected TSA workers and just operations as a whole at the airport. Now, because this is not the first shutdown that's had this major impact, what contingency plans do airports and airlines have in place? Have they made any changes since we have seen, many of these situations happen before?
Well, they have, but the reality is there isn't thousands of backup TSA agents to do this work.
That's true.
So the challenge is to the airlines, they want leaders on the air.
And as true as it is, I also don't care. I do, but I don't. We're not here for that. Let's see what Bloomberg
has learned that there are discussions around a potential
more BS commercials. This is what I spend my morning doing, listening to the news.
So, you've started your own company, but feel unsafe using your home address for not only.
Oh, bitch.
Independence of 1916 references just one other country,
yours, when it speaks of support to our cause from Ireland's exiled children in America.
I just don't care about what Ireland has to say.
Time and time again.
Oh God, they're doing it in several networks. I just don't care. Looks like we're going to have to put on some Fox News.
The TSA lines are long naturally.
Let me be clear, it's not Fox News technically. That's live now from Fox. There's a little bit of a difference. Unfortunately, they don't broadcast on free services. I want Fox Business, but I can't get it without some foreign BS wrapped around it.
They don't necessarily have TSA pre-check, or they're traveling in a mode that isn't as fast as they normally do because they have more bags. They might check more bags. They may have more things they're going to bring through security, which just naturally takes time because they're going on vacation to enjoy themselves on spring break. And that naturally creates delays at the airports this time of year. And then when you throw any kink in the system, such as the agents not being paid, so they're working with fewer staff, it creates a great challenge in the system, as mentioned at many airports.
God, I'm going to go back to sleep listening to that guy. I think I want to put Bloomberg back on. Look like they're coming out of commercial here soon.
Want an institution to keep that yield, or would there be sharing of that yield? So right now, one of the debates going on is, will rewards be allowed? And I think these are really important questions.
Don't miss Bloomberg Crypto live Tuesdays.
Well,
get your fixed income fix.
That's
Watch
today.
Bloomberg Real Yield around the world right here on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
30 minutes until the start of the cash trade. I'm Matt Miller.
I'm Danny Berger. Bloomberg Open Interest starts right now.
Sweet.
Coming up, U.S. diesel tops $5 a gallon as the Iran war continues to squeeze energy supplies.
Meanwhile, Delta delivers an upbeat outlook showing the airline's resilience in the face of higher fuel costs.
And NVIDIA gets a muted market reaction to Jensen Huang's $1 trillion forecast.
Well, I have that muted market reaction, which, by the way, on average, when he speaks, the stock doesn't move a lot. So I don't know what we were expecting.
Right, and as Ed Ludlow points out, this is the Super Bowl for them.
Yes.
So they say a lot of big, crazy things that are actually stuff it turns out we already kind of knew about.
Yeah, and that's kind of priced into the stock. So that's what we're seeing. We're only up 0.6%, 0.7% in the pre-market. They unveiled a suite of partnerships, plans to build chips for everything from robots to data centers and space. They are targeting $1 trillion in sales through 2027. Also announcing a partnership with both Uber and Lyft to give them autonomous vehicle technology. Those shares are moving
Right
this
on,
morning.
and I saw a video of
If I get
Olaf on
5
stage with
likes,
Jensen
I'll take a
Huang
shot
as well.
for
So we'll
every
talk
5
about their
likes.
connection to Frozen. A cross asset check on S&P futures right now higher, even as we see Brent crude futures rise. So that relationship breaking down this morning. Brent up to $102 a barrel. NYMEX is up as well. You can see the 10-year yield continues to come down. That's also an interesting relationship that we haven't seen so far. Typically, when oil futures are up, you see stock futures down and the 10-year yield higher on inflation concerns. But today, I guess, Danny, it's not the case.
It is not the case with continued action in the front of war. Israel claiming it killed another top Iranian official as the war shows no signs of abating. Iran ramped up attacks on energy assets around the Persian Gulf, setting a massive UAE gas field ablaze. President Trump spoke yesterday as questions grow over how long the conflict can last.
Forever.
Can we wrap this war up this week?
Yeah, sure.
Will we?
Yeah,
I don't think so, but it'll be soon. Won't be long. And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world.
Diesel prices, as Matt pointed out, have now jumped to $5 a gallon in the U.S. That's the first time since December 2022. The Iran conflict is tightening supplies and ripples throughout the economy. Joining us now is Bloomberg's EMEA News Director, Will Kennedy. Will, we are seeing not just the price of oil, but some of these other products move higher. How sustainable does some of the tightness in this market look with the most recent attacks?
That's exactly right, Danny. We are seeing the impacts throughout the fuel market, and that's because refineries can't get as much crude oil as they used to. That's putting pressure on product supplies. That's having people bid up the price of these products like diesel. And diesel is central to the way the economy operates. That means trucking, but it also importantly means farming. People's tractors and harvesters, they all use diesel. So it's a real input into the economy, which will, if it's sustained over a period of weeks and months, add real inflationary impetus. We should also be looking at jet fuel. We're seeing the price there, and that will feed through into plane tickets. We had the Delta CEO this morning saying that its fuel bill had jumped by tens of millions of dollars this month. So we are starting to see those impacts, and it's transferring oil product market.
You know what's funny is I got an alert yesterday from crypto.com because I still have holdings locked up with those holes. If you haven't seen my video on why they're holes, you definitely should not deal with crypto.com. They owe me thousands, and they owe my son thousands, and they are completely screwing us. Anyway, I got an alert from them saying that Bitcoin ran up to 76.8, which at the time they were the only place I could find that was saying that. And it wasn't 76.8, it was 75.8. But if you went into their app, it was showing 76.8. Some of the margin in this market is just insane. It wasn't futures. It was their spot price. That was just completely inaccurate. They're the only people saying that. But will it continue on up? Very well could. If you were not here to see the little video I played on the prediction of where Bitcoin is going to go, back it up a little bit if you like, but I can just tell you it's very possible that we could have a fool's run, a sucker's rally, as he put it. And if that happens, it needs to maintain above 74. That's a current level of contention. Once it gets above 74, screws around a little bit, it could run up to 80,000. Now, what we're expecting is it to bounce off of 80,000 and come plummeting back down. And if it continuously loses the 74, it could go as low as 52. Don't really expect that to happen, but it can. However, if it goes up above the 80,000 and holds it, then we can probably expect to see it run up to almost 100,000. Will it hold? Probably hell no. Probably not. So just be careful. If it gets above this 74, you could probably get off playing along. But as soon as it busts above 74, watch for it to hit that 80 mark. And when it gets to about 80, I would say there's greater odds that it's not going to break through 80. So I would say that would be an excellent position for a short. Not financial advice, but yeah. There's a lot of things I'm expecting to see come down because some of this sucker's rally, even though, I spent a lot of time yesterday talking about how these were buying opportunities. Yeah, sure, they are. But I do believe this year sometime, no idea when, but this year sometime, a lot of people that know what they're talking about are expecting a 20 to 50% market crash in the S&P. And that's not really priced in on the short term. But everything you see bouncing right now is people getting in on these lowered costs. I'm surprised that oil futures haven't moved more on the news of Trump asking our allies for help. There sure is lots of news about it on social media. People are stupid. Everybody thinks the wildest shit, and especially on social media. They hear one little inkling of anything in the direction of their biases, and they latch onto it so hard. It's sickening.
Of Delta, Benny, which does have its own refinery. When can we expect higher ticket
all
prices?
Of these videos circulating on social
media. Can we expect consumers to stomach that?
Going out of the airport, in fact. I mean,
they're still talking about TSA.
So
That's a shame.
Fuel surcharges, and that's really across the world. You go from New Zealand to India to Europe, so companies are already locking in higher prices, and that feeds right through to the ticket price. In the US, we've not seen it yet, and there is still a group of consumers, a rather large group, that are willing to spend. We heard from Ed Bastian, the Delta CEO, this morning saying there is a sizable group of customers that still want to travel, that have made this a priority for their spending habits, and there's really no let up here. Where it might start hurting is more on the sort of economy-minded end of the spectrum, so people who book cheap tickets, who are cost sensitive, and the airlines that cater to these kinds of people. So the JetBlues of this world, the Spirits of this world, that's where you might see more of a fallout. So really, if you come into this crisis, and it is a crisis for the industry the longer it keeps going, and you're coming into it strong, with a strong balance sheet, and in the case of Delta, you have your own refinery, so you have something of a protection, you're going to come out.
Let me see what they're saying.
Want to take those positions, but I do think that these were high-value targets. It caused major command disruption.
All right.
There was some symbolism in it that, hey, here's your new leaders. Now they're gone, and they hardly lasted a week. So I think that this is extremely significant. Larry John.
Absolutely. I swear to God, these people are insane if they think they're gonna, with the greatest military in the world. Get the fuck out of here. Death to America. Are you insane? Yes, we know the answer. That was rhetorical, but come on, dude. Read the room. We spend more than the next 5 countries in the world on our military budget. You don't stand a chance in hell. Like, why they even attempt to go after Israel, knowing that we're their strongest ally, knowing we have got the greatest military in the world? Are you stupid? Like, Jesus Christ. Makes me sick. I mean, it's just so stupid to me. Damn it. And on top of that, don't even get me started on the oppression of their women, for God's sake. The fact that some people on the left, it's not all of them, but the fact that some of them, the fact that any of them can be against the liberation of the Iranian people. Now, I know that wasn't the main objective of this war, but what did Trump say when in his little speech that he gave right when all this started? He directly spoke to the Iranian people, take your government back. Okay? Now, what do you translate that to mean? I translate that to the liberation of the people. Now, what is wrong with that? How can anybody be against that? Now, what they'll tell you is, well, we're not against the liberation of the people. We're just against how Trump is doing it. And he's not authorized to do it. And they're supposed to go to Congress. Look, man, George W. Bush changed all that. Is it right? Is it wrong? That's not for me to say. The point is, it is 100% within Trump's right to jump in and declare war. It is 100% within his right. George Bush changed that. And every single president since George W. Bush has done it. I swear to God, dude, shut up. You know? It's always something, Donald Trump, something, Donald Trump. It's just because they don't like Trump.
And I was not happy with the UK.
So President Trump says the UK slow-walked here any help. Now you've got the UK and Germany among several of these countries that are pushing back. They say this is not our war. You've worked extensively on international trade. Why won't these supposed allies help us secure this strait? This is a time of need for the U.S. They're supposed to be there for us.
You know, they're weak-kneed. They're like some members of Congress who forever have said we've got to stop Iran from being nuclear capable. But when it comes to actually doing it, oh no, I want to second guess the president.
That's because it's Trump.
calls America, we always say yes, and it should be reciprocal. And the same with most European countries. You know, we're kind of in a marital situation where we don't always get along with them, but we're still married to them, and we need to support each other. But for them to say that this is not their war is ridiculous. The acts of terrorism that Iran has done through proxies or directly.
Hey, if I get 5 likes, for every 5 likes, I'll take a shot. Happy St. Patrick's Day, baby.
Most of them have been in other countries. And so Germany and Great Britain and other usual allies to not realize that this is a great moment to neutralize one of the most destabilizing forces in the world. It's irresponsible for them to not be stepping forward.
Let's turn stateside here. Today, St. Patrick's Day, the Prime Minister of Ireland he'll be at the White House later, but we just saw that he was having breakfast there with Vice President J.D. Vance. Traditionally, we have good relations with Ireland, but they're remaining neutral through all of this. They're military. They don't want to get involved. The U.S. pressing them as well.
Nobody wants to get involved.
They also rely heavily on the U.S. and NATO regions for security. But given this current crisis of the
Look, I understand why no other countries over there want to get involved, because they're right there next to them. They're easy targets. I get it. But man, what would happen? What would Iran do if we had just 2 allies of ours chip in? What the hell does Iran think they're going to do with their silly-ass theocracy bullshit?
Moved in a very woke direction in the last several years, and that's disappointing because our ties with Ireland are historic. They've gone on for centuries, from Ronald Reagan to Tip O'Neill to Mitch McConnell, more recently Paul Ryan. We have all kinds of Irish American leaders in the United States Congress and in Washington. And for Ireland not to say, you know what, we're not as strong as you are, but we're doggone sure on your side, 100%. What can we do to help? Very, very disappointed, particularly as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
We shall see. The day is young. Maybe pressure on the Prime Minister today. Former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. What are your plans? It sure is early to be drinking, but it's St. Patrick's Day. So, drop a like. For every 5 likes I get, I'll take a shot. I'm waiting because I want to get drunk. It's St. Patrick's Day. Let's go. Let's get drunk and throw some money around recklessly. I say that, but I don't have any money to throw around recklessly, so I can't do that. But I will definitely drink.
Down. And we've tried everything to shame people and blame people and put them in their place and tell them that they're doing things wrong and that they're killing everybody. But if we keep telling them that, then we are going to kill everybody. So we got to figure this out. And we're not going to do it by blaming people who are just trying to wake up and make ends meet every day, especially when a lot of those people have the same connection to nature and the environment that we all share here. I hike and I ski and I love the environment just as much as anybody else, but so does somebody who works in an oil field. The Cabela's shopper and the REI shopper want the same things. They want clean air and they want clean water and they want to be able to recreate outdoors. So until we figure out how to get on the same page, we will continue to lose. We cannot afford to lose anymore. We need to build a winning coalition of people across the political spectrum, or we will never create the solutions that we need.
Yeah, as far as the whole environmental argument goes, I'm all for not shitting where you eat, of course. And there are some pretty big atrocities going on with Dow, for one. The chemical company, the shit they dump in the water. Remember Alex Jones talking about it turning the frogs gay? He was right. It was feminizing the frogs. The chemicals. They ran tests. The chemicals that were being dumped in certain areas were feminizing the frogs. Now, should he have delivered it the way he did, sounding like a complete batshit crazy person? That didn't help. But I just saw a story somewhere that came out and confirmed all that. Are they going to give him credit? Hell.
The need to oversee the war in Iran. In the Oval Office yesterday, he also...
Once you start Newsmax Plus, you won't stop. So try it for free.
Yeah, that's what they say, isn't it?
Of oil and gas and renewables. We're actually using more renewables now than we were in 2022, which is helping in relation to supply, but we'll keep that under constant review. Thank you, Jason. I've got Millie from The Independent.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Millie Cook from The Independent.
I don't care about you, Millie Cook.
The brand's profitability this year. I spoke with the CEO, Gernot Dillner, about the turnaround plans.
I have a very broad strategy covering all you just mentioned. On the one side, the production.
Before the bell, I'm going to go have a smoke. Y'all drop a like. If I have 5 likes, for every 5 likes, I'll take a shot. What are you waiting for? Give me a like. I've got 1 on Rumble and 2 on YouTube. Cumulatively, man. Cumulatively. 5 total. I ain't even asking for 5 on each side. Just come on, drop a like. I shall return. I'm going to leave you with good old Newsmax.
Strategy for the past couple
I'm going
of
to have a
weeks.
smoke, refill my coffee. I'll be back.
In the Senate, because of course it needs to break that 60-vote threshold needed to even hold debate on this. So you hear about the talking filibuster, the zombie filibuster, but what they're going to actually do this week is something that has never been done before. Republicans are actually going to have a message that comes over from the House. This is the House-passed version of the SAVE Act. It doesn't have some of those items that the president has put in there, stipulating restrictions surrounding mail-in voting. But what it will do is it will allow for Republicans to hold the debate on the Senate floor and control the debate. This is different from the talking filibuster, which would have given that time to Democrats. Democrats would have put forward all kinds of amendments on this, from the Epstein files to perhaps January 6th. Now this is a process Republicans control. One of the biggest proponents of this has been Republican Senator Mike Lee, who authored this SAVE Act with Republican Congressman Chip Roy. He has said that the idea here is to keep debating and keep debating. This will allow a so-called public pressure campaign. Democrats, we know, have been very united against this legislation. The Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called this Jim Crow 2.0. So they want to create an environment whereby there is always Republican debate on the Senate floor, and this is something that will precipitate constituents calling their state senator, putting pressure on them to pass the SAVE Act. We expect this to go, John, certainly later into the week. Overnight, we could see somebody on the Senate floor at midnight. And perhaps into the weekend. And they want to continue this, of course, until they get it passed. Now, Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said he can guarantee a debate on this. He can guarantee a vote, but he can't guarantee an outcome. So we'll see how long this, of course, continues. It should be very interesting to watch. But right now, John, it, of course, does not have the votes. Republicans feel that this is a must-pass legislation, of course, retaining both majorities in the House and the Senate. So we'll see if they can get it done.
Certainly an interesting strategy there by Republicans. Put that public pressure on them, keep that discussion going, and try to maybe get some votes. Kilmany Deepcart, great reporting. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Now, a live look here at the Windy City, courtesy of EarthChem. It is a pivotal day for the Prairie State. Illinois voters are headed to the polls for the 2026 primary election, and while it's a blue state, the stakes for the GOP have never been higher. After 30 years and 5 terms, Democrat Senator Dick Durbin is retiring. 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats are vying for that seat that hasn't been open in decades. There is also a crowded field of Republicans looking to challenge Governor J.B. Pritzker, with GOP candidates hoping to gain momentum by calling out the state's high taxes, high crime rates, and its status as a sanctuary state. Let's welcome in our panel to discuss. We have White House and Washington reporter at Politico, Daniel Lippman, and the founder of Chicago Red, P. Ray Easley, is also with us. Great to have you here. Let's start right with the top here. Dan, you got the race to fill Dick Durbin's seat, creating this civil war within the Democrat Party. Look at this headline here from NBC. Illinois primary puts Democrat divides on display up and down the ballot. 2 of the candidates are part of the far left. You have a socialist Mamdani wing of the party. There's the one that's more mainstream. And Republicans, they're hoping to capitalize off that split. Daniel, how much of a priority is this for the seat in the national GOP? Do you really think that they've got a shot to pick this up?
I think Republicans would be wise to not spend too much money in Illinois, because it is a pretty blue state these days. And J.B. Pritzker has a lot of money. So even if his preferred candidate, his lieutenant governor, Juliana Stratton, does not win tonight, then, because it's looking like it's going to be Raja Krishnamoorthi, who is a Illinois congressman who has had more money. He still wants to keep this seat blue, and he's going to put millions of dollars on the line to make that happen. And so it has been interesting because you've seen a split in the black vote between Robin Kelly, who is going hard against U.S. support of Israel, and then you have more moderate candidates like Stratton and Krishnamoorthi.
We shall see. The Republican field, though, for this seat is very crowded. You have 6 candidates that are on the ballot today. P. Ray, what are these Republicans doing here to appeal to the independents? That's where they're going to have to pick up some votes there in the suburbs who are usually voting for the Democrats. What are some of the top issues driving people to the polls today?
Well, as a candidate for the 7th Congressional District, as I've been canvassing, I've been listening to people talk about the fact that we spent so much money on the illegals and how we need to align ourselves more with the president and his immigration policy. We have been funding this invasion with our tax dollars, and it seems like Democrats don't care about it. There is a very bad taste for the Democratic Party, especially within Black Chicago. So we're going to see how the polls show this disdain. Right now, the people are in total rebellion because we've been told for generations that the city doesn't have money. And now we've seen that they were just hoarding it for their new invading party.
Yeah, certainly going far more left, too. Medicare for all, a $25 minimum wage, abolishing ICE. I mean, these are just some of the proposals that the progressive Senate candidates are pushing for. Daniel, if one of these far-left Democrats ends up winning in November, will this push the party as a whole further away from the mainstream?
I think that every Democrat who wins, who is more liberal, that basically creates kind of a political spectrum shift where that becomes the new normal and the new mainstream. We've already seen people like Gavin Newsom question U.S. support for Israel and others. If you look at, I think, a majority of Democrats, and it seems like a strong portion of Americans, they want to abolish ICE, and so they've been turned off of ICE's importance because of what happened in the last year, and so that's no longer a fringe position anymore. I do think that Democrats will have to row some of that back if they want to win in 2028, because just because you go too far in the Biden administration, then you go too far on the other side in the Trump administration, that doesn't mean that you should switch completely back to the Biden position of open borders. And so I think Democratic strategists are looking at this and making sure that they try to find the opposite of Trump when they're looking at 2028.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're not going too far left, not going too far right. I mean, people still want their national security and believe that people shouldn't be in the country illegally that have crimes to their record. But there are 3 Republican candidates. They are squaring off to face J.B. Pritzker in November. One of them is Darren Bailey, who ran in 2022. Pritzker beat him by more than 10 points. P. Ray, the Republican Party in Illinois changed it up. It's the strategy here to give tonight's winner a fighting chance in November. Do you believe that maybe the Republicans might have a shot?
I absolutely do believe that Republicans have a shot. We're not only looking at ICE. I think that the Democrats have only been campaigning on, we're going to fight Trump, we're going to hate Trump. But President Trump's name is not on anybody's tax bills. We are looking at it from a purely financial standpoint, and we're looking for the candidate who can save us the most money. Right now, we're dealing with people who have property tax bills that have gone up over 100%. And J.B. Pritzker has not given us a solution for that. We're also dealing with narco-terrorism on the streets of Chicago, and J.B. Pritzker has governed over this entire campaign. So we are looking for someone who can save us from the chaos that the border has created. I think that the Republicans really have to focus on building unity because there's been a lot of infighting. But once we really calm ourselves down, we can unify our message and get that out to the voters, because it's really the voters in Cook County that make the state blue. And I think that Cook County is definitely suffering Democrat fatigue.
And you brought up Pritzker's name. His name is always constantly brought up here as a presidential candidate, maybe in 2028. Daniel, but if he sails to victory in November, will he be seen as the leader of the Democrats' progressive wing? I mean, he's always attacking President Trump. We know that.
Yeah, it will help his cause, obviously, but I'm not, when I talk to Democratic consultants and voters, I'm not hearing a lot of enthusiasm for Pritzker. And so he could be easy for Republicans to tag as an out-of-touch billionaire. And so that is not what Democrats are looking for. They want a fighter, and that's why Gavin Newsom has been pretty popular. But just like my previous point, if you look at the last swing of 20, 30 years of politics, Bill Clinton was the opposite of George H.W. Bush. George W. Bush was the opposite of Bill Clinton. Barack Obama, the opposite of Bush. Trump, the opposite of Obama. And so I don't think that a billionaire who is a kind of a populist is what Democrats are going to pick at the end of the day in 2028.
We shall see how it all shakes out. We've got to leave it there. Daniel Lippman, P. Ray Easley, great conversation. Appreciate you both.
Diddly doodly diddly doodly doodly diddly doodly doodly.
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day plus war and shamrocks. The Prime Minister of Ireland presents President Trump with a crystal bowl of shamrocks today. But the traditionally jovial affair poses a potential problem for the Irish leader, at odds with the U.S. over foreign policy, taxes, and immigration. We got more news now coming up next.
Look at you. Can't even throw me no likes. We're 1 minute out from the market bell.
Diversification is good, but it does take a bit of time to get vendors and suppliers up to speed. Quality is a big deal, especially when you're dealing with toys and kids. It's not an instantaneous thing, but it's not also a 5-year, have to build a new plant from scratch.
From the world of politics to the world of business, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines deliver news, insight, and analysis live 2 times a day, every trading day. Balance of Power at 1 and 5 Eastern, only on Bloomberg. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, only on Bloomberg.
Moments away from the start of trading, and futures are higher. This is Bloomberg Open Interest.
Here we
I'm
go.
Matt Miller. We're looking at 0.5% gain on S&P futures. The same is true for the NASDAQ and the Russell 2000. This even as we see oil rising again today. I guess it's only $102 a barrel for Brent and not even $100 a barrel for WTI. So maybe that's some cold comfort. This is really cool. TC Energy, TRC is it TRP? TRP, ringing the bell at New York Stock Exchange. I was just looking at their stock, and it's doubled over the last 5 years, but it's absolutely soaring this year. It's up another 17%. They do energy infrastructure, moving around sort of things like liquefied natural gas, and people want that obviously right now. Also very cool is that Merlin Labs is ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. And Matt George, who you see, at the NASDAQ market side, Matt George, who you see here, will be on our program in just about 1 hour's time. They develop autonomous technology for planes, and that's not just like autopilot, like the blow-up doll in an airplane, but actually for like fighter jet kind of planes. So
did you say blow-up doll?
Just want to make clear, it was the adult at the center. The CEO isn't a small toddler.
Yes, not the kid. Not the kid.
That'd be very surprising. Some of the stocks I'm watching this morning, Nvidia, only moving up 0.25%. They unveiled a suite of partnerships.
Not much at all.
They plan to build chips for everything from robots to data centers and space. The company targeting $1 trillion in sales through 2027. They saw an initial move higher after that, but Matt, how much of it is already priced in? So not a whole lot of action this morning.
Yeah, $1 trillion is a great number to throw around, but if you do the math and figure out that was already in the plans, it's not as exciting. IBM, speaking of, it was among the firms that partnered with NVIDIA to improve AI data sets. It also just closed an $11 billion deal to acquire data streaming platform Confluent. This is another thing that we already knew about, but all the admin has been done. We're going to sit down with the CEO, though, of IBM in just a few minutes' time. Arvind Krishna will join the program. Right now, let's get back to Natixis lead portfolio strategist, Jack Janasiewicz. And Jack, I wonder where you see mispricing here, where you see values that maybe the rest of the market has overlooked. Have we thrown anything out, any babies out with the bathwater, so to speak?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes back to really the tech space, because right now to us it's really acting more of the defensive sector. Right? You've had a pretty substantial derating, so the valuations have come down. I still look at the things that I think after COVID investors were looking for in those defensive names. You know, big margins, still healthy cash flow, no debt on the balance sheet, buying back stock, going through that whole list. You know, those things are still, I think, superior relative to the rest of the market. So. Maybe we've discounted tech to a point where maybe that's something to rotate back into from a defensive perspective. That way you're still at least invested in the market, so if we do get the taco trade in effect, the market pops, you still have upside, but at the same time, you get a little bit of a cushion if this longer, higher for longer for oil continues to play itself out and pulls the economy slower.
Even though tech's doing better, there still is this feeling of the market if there's nowhere to hide, because maybe the AI concerns are still very real for them. And with that, Bank of America, their latest fund manager survey showed cash levels jumping from 3.4% to 4.3% in March. That's the biggest increase since the pandemic. Is cash a better place to be hiding out right now? Do you want to be hiding out on the sidelines?
Yeah, it's tough right now from a portfolio perspective, because the concern obviously with the bond market could be that if it starts to price in the inflationary impulse, you'll start to see bond yields rise. So you're not going to be able to hide out there. Gold really hasn't been doing much in this recent sell-off. Maybe you get a little bit of the Bitcoin diversification here, but I think in general, some of the things that we would tend to look for from a diversification perspective for a defensive positioning in the portfolio isn't really helping. And so I think cash is one way to think about it, but I think maybe it's just a general rotation within the portfolio to maybe take a little bit out of the cyclical sector, move more back to the growth side of the equation, and that includes maybe moving from small cap to large caps, moving away from international back to U.S., maybe tilting a little bit in emerging markets to China, into Latin America, those sort of things. I think that's maybe the better way to play it right now.
When we talk about the potential for President Trump, for the U.S. to find an off-ramp and take it quickly, how do you feel like markets would react if you heard President Trump say, you know what, we've won? I mean, he said that many times, and we're out.
Ethereum. Right. I think you get a relief rally. But the bigger issue is, where do oil prices, where do energy prices go from there? Because at the end of the day, I think what this shows is that Iran still has full control over the Straits of Hormuz. That's never going to change. Does the political calculus now suddenly shift? Because Iran has basically shown that they can take the global economy hostage, and they're doing it through the use of oil in this case. So that perspective really doesn't change. So does that put a little bit of a premium back into the energy space? And as a result, maybe prices don't necessarily return to $60 where we were prior to this, and we have a little bit of a step function higher in the energy backdrop, and I think the market still needs to come to terms with that portion of it.
What difference does that make for risk assets? If we're not at $100 a barrel, but maybe it settles at 70 or somewhere around there, that's higher, but not as high as it's been during this conflict.
It'll probably be a little bit of a chop. We need to digest things, rethink things, but then once we sort of get our feet underneath us, we'll get back to what really matters here in earnings, and then we'll see what the flow through is to earnings as a result of these higher prices going forward.
Jack, are you worried at all about private credit? Because there's been a lot of talk of the distraction this war has caused, and yet every day we have some kind of private credit headlines.
Yeah, based on what we've been seeing, and a lot of this still sort of resides in the BTC space, which is largely a retail product at this point. We still think it's somewhat idiosyncratic. When we start to look at banks that are lending to the BDCs who are then making the loans, you're basically looking at the idiosyncratic risk. How does that move to a systemic risk? You're probably not seeing that transmission mechanism move right to the banks. And when you start to look at the loans that banks are making, I think it's something close to $300 billion in total. If you look at some of these, it's 1 to 10% of that total loan portfolio that's being dealt out to the BDCs. If you assume a 10% default rate, you're looking at 1% of the total loan book potentially going bust. So from an idiosyncratic risk, I think that's where it stays. Is it a systemic risk? Just to see it translate into the banking system,
right here.
I have a hard time seeing that. And the last thing I would say there is, I think everybody has this 2008 itis, right? That's going to, I think, help to sort of mitigate things, but it's also, I think, a concern that might be a little bit overblown. The stuff that happened in the global financial crisis, we've taken a lot of steps to prevent that from happening again, and that's also, I think, going to short-circuit this sort of potential nasty cycle working its way from an idiosyncratic risk to a systemic risk.
But if there is an issue in private credit and defaults pick up, should we have the expectation for wider credit markets then? We have seen spreads start to widen after being at historically tights. Are we headed for an actual credit cycle?
Yeah, and this will be, I think, interesting because you're conflating, I think, the potential for a slowing growth backdrop with some of these idiosyncratic risks. So I think when you get the recovery here in asset prices, what I'll be watching for is what are spreads doing? Do we see spreads actually then start to rally as a result of that? If we don't, that tells me there's something more at stake here with regard to this potential pass-through, if you will.
You know, before these two issues, right, war and private credit, we were so focused on AI. Is it a bubble? You know, they can't spend enough. Now they're spending too much. Where's the money? Like ROI. How does it look right now?
You know, listen, you got to look at these CapEx spends from the hyperscalers. They're coming out and saying, you know, second place is for losers, basically, right? We still need to be the winner.
They're still saying that. They're still spending as much as they possibly can.
So the bottom line here is they're still going to spend. And someone's going to be a beneficiary of the spend. So you may not like the specific spend from that, from that specific stock name, but someone's going to benefit from that. So,
by the way, we're funding it no problem, Jack. Every time they come to market with a bond issue, even if it's $50 billion, it sails through.
I mean, these guys look like AA single or AAA credits from a perspective of balance sheet. So, again, you may not like the CapEx spend for that specific name, but the broader impact to the market is still someone's earnings, and I think that's the bigger takeaway from our perspective here.
Jack, this has been so fantastic to have you on. Thank you so much for joining. That's Natixis lead portfolio strategist, Jack Janasiewicz. Let's get your check on equity markets right now, just about 10 minutes into your trading day. And as I told Matt before, I didn't wear green today because the market's doing it for me, so happy St. Patrick's Day to you. The market's up 0.6% this morning, being led by the big cap tech, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, faring the best in terms of points added to the S&P 500. Uber's pretty high up here too. They announced a new partnership with Nvidia for autonomous vehicle technology. The bank's having a really good day too. They've been somewhat beat up over the past 2 weeks. Looking to the downside, some of the healthcare companies are down. Eli Lilly down 2%. I do want to point out Corning. Okay, so this is a company that makes fiber optic cables. And Jensen Huang in the whatever you call it, the Nvidia conference that they had, the GPU GTC, of course, rolls right off the tongue. He said that they're still using copper cables. And this is a company that makes fiber optic cables, and one of the big bets is that Nvidia's and the other data centers of the world would start using their products, but maybe that's not the case, and they're going to just be using copper. So that's the story with that. All sectors, though, are higher this morning, unless things have changed in the past minute. No, they have not. All sectors are higher, as I point out. Healthcare, one of the laggards. That's followed by energy, with oil prices still above $100 a barrel. But it is that rebound in financials that leads the overall market higher, up 1.5%, with the S&P up just under 0.7%, Matt.
All right, so fascinating. I mean, the fact that everything is up, even as oil rises, is interesting. I guess it just isn't rising as high as we had feared. Coming up, IBM's CEO joins the show to discuss their new partnership with Nvidia, as well as the $11 billion takeover of Confluent. This is Bloomberg Open Interest.
I am trying to get in on a trade. Sorry for the wait. Right.
This is a 15, 16 grams tuna. Then sushi rice is still a little bit warm. So take one, like a very, don't make it too tight. So from now, and very light, like a ball. Put wasabi in the middle. Then my process 1 to 6. 1. This is putting the between the rice air. Then make the 4 fingers curl. Make sushi shape. Then touch this. 2. Then turn. Now these 2 fingers, top of the bottom, make the sushi shape the more beautiful. 3. Then, looks like pushing, not pushing. 3, 4, turn, same way, 5, and 6. So this is the 1 to 6.
The is about to start.
And you're already looking for that edge.
The opening trade brings you everything you need to know as markets open across Europe.
Let's talk about the significant risk transfers to find space in their balance sheet.
Hedging some of that risk.
You could look at it the other way. Obviously, this stuff is risk-weighted.
I would much rather be long than be short.
We're in a kind of sweet spot.
Very, very strong alignment.
3 revolutions in one.
I'm Guy Johnson.
I'm Anna Edwards.
And I'm Tom McKenzie.
This is your opening trade.
Every trading day, only on Bloomberg.
Bringing you the world's business and financial news whenever and wherever.
All right, I just bought a little bit of Ethereum. I don't typically like to buy in when it's running up here, but it's such a small amount. It's very inconsequential. Thanks for sticking with me, one guy. Everybody else left. Nobody dropped a like. Looks like I'm not getting drunk. That's all right.
Welcome to Bloomberg This Weekend. I'm David Gura.
I'm Lisa Mateo.
They understand the 90 million Iranians who want their freedom back are about to press down on them. And so the other part is economic. These leaders then, they won't be facilitating payments. Nobody's going to get paid. That will create a lot of turmoil.
Yes, it will.
And probably pushing things in the right direction. So this is very, very good news. This is what we call aiding and abetting a revolution, not hijacking it from them.
Yeah.
You're the guy to answer this question.
You're damn
General.
right.
Iran is known for laying mines through the Strait of Hormuz, and there are reports that they are mining the strait yet again. Now, take a look at your screen here. These are the different types of mines that they're using. These are the limpet mines that attach to a ship. There are more mines that sink at the bottom of the seabed. And then there's the drifting mine bomb, that bob in the water. These ships don't have to touch these mines. They can explode based on the sound of the ship. General, how can the U.S. fight these? Is this something that we have any type of weaponry to defend against?
We do. We've got a lot of different means. Some of them are been around since World War II, minesweepers. Others are highly advanced electronic warfare detection. Space assets are very good at this.
Let's see what old Trump saying.
To talk about, but there's not much I can say.
What's Mr. Trump saying?
One of those little problems in life. And we had some very good results today, as you probably heard, in Iran. Very strong results, militarily results. We're talking to countries about policing the straits, because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. And nice to have other countries police that with us. And we'll help, we'll work with them. Militarily, as far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran. I guess they can have a little bit of fight back, but not much. Not much. We've taken out their air forces, we've taken out their navy. We've taken out their air defense. There's no air defense whatsoever. We've taken out their leadership times 2 or 3. Might be 3. We'll find out soon. But militarily, it's been amazing. We attacked Karg Island, and we left just the one little area standing, and the standing part is where they have the pipes, all the oil pipes come in. And we can do that on 5 minutes notice. We have it all locked and loaded and ready to go if we want to do it. But we chose not to do it. I chose not to do it yet. We'll see what happens. They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready. Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should. But I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be ready at some point. But we're doing very well with respect to that whole situation in Iran. We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's great too. But remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. It's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the strait open. That, by comparison, it's small because Iran has very little firepower left. Their missiles are down to a low number. You see they're shooting very few of them. You know why? Because they don't have very many of them. And because we've decimated their manufacturing capability. Likewise, the drones are way down. They're down to about 20%.
I just added an Ethereum long. Looks like my liquidation is $2,032. It's not going to go down that low. I mean, it could, but I highly doubt it. I only got 2 little contracts. They were only like $23 a piece, but they came in with 10x leverage, so my notional value is $465, which sucks. So for every dollar Ethereum moves, I get a quarter, right? So if it runs up $100, hey, I make $20, which isn't very far outside of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I probably should get another one, actually. Should I not? Should I not? Let's see. Yeah, I've never made the trade through Coinbase, or excuse me, through what do you call it? Trading View. Yes, I'm going for a market order. Along. This doesn't look like it looks in the app, so just to be safe, I'm just gonna do it in the app because I got it right here. So there we go. One more. Now my notional should be a little bit higher. Yeah, 700. So every time it goes up $1, I get 30-something cents. Yeah, see, there's my profit so far. A whole 30 cents. Let's go. I'm probably going to leave that there for a minute. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? The one that I bought down here reduces my average price in, which was $23.31. That kind of sucks. I should have gotten in a little earlier, but it's all right. It's all right. My estimated liquidation price is now $21.86. I still don't think that we're going to see that, at least not today. Even if it just runs up to here, man, that's still a profit that I will take. Pretty sure the fees are like a buck or two, something like that. So I'm already up $1 basically, and I need cash so bad. I will sell the first $20 I make because that's $20. I am so desperately broke. I shouldn't be doing this, but here I am because I'm an addict. I'm definitely an addict. Speaking of which, why don't you drop a like so that I can have a reason to take a shot on this glorious St. Paddy's Day? How? Let's see what Mr. Trump says.
The case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2.
You're damn right.
Double, at least double. Now I think it's much higher than that. But
I don't know about that, but we are our best.
Like we do it for habit, but we also do it for some very good allies that we have in the Middle East.
Sir, you mentioned that Iran wants to make a deal. However, earlier today we heard their foreign minister say they never said they wanted to make a deal, but they'll do whatever they can to defend Iran.
What they tell you and what they tell the public. You know, I just put out a truth about their disinformation. I assume most of you saw it. But they used AI. They said they attacked the USS Abraham Lincoln, one of the largest ships in the world, an aircraft carrier. And they show pictures of it burning. It was never attacked. It was never burning. The Wall Street Journal put out a false story that 5 of our big, beautiful tankers that we feed the planes with, give the planes the gas, jet fuel, hundreds of thousands of gallons of gasoline, that they were all essentially destroyed. They weren't destroyed at all. In fact, 4 of them were not even, I mean, literally were not damaged. And one of them has kamikaze votes don't exist. They're fake. And you can almost see that when you look at them. It looks great, yeah. Because if they did exist, we'd hit them just like we hit other votes all over the place. But they don't exist. In fact, some of the people say, where are the votes? Well, how come nobody's seen the votes? You know why? Because it's AI generated. It's fake. And I found, I didn't realize this before we started, but Iran is known for a lot of fake news, and they deal with our fake news. And I actually think it's pretty criminal because our media companies, who have no credibility whatsoever, are putting out information that they know is false. And it's a very dangerous thing for the country. I think they could be in serious jeopardy.
Mr. President, your PAC put out a fundraising email a couple of days ago, and it's being criticized for using official White House photos of you at the dignified transfer. And the PAC is also promising access to secret.
Well, I was at the dignified transfer, unlike a lot of other people.
Do you think it's an appropriate email to send? Your critics are saying that you're fundraising.
I didn't see it. I mean, somebody puts it out. We have a lot of people working for us, but there's nobody that's better to the military than me. And all you have to do is look at the election, look at the election results, look at the kind of votes that we get, look at the poll numbers. There's nobody that's ever been higher as a president than me with the military.
Can you give us a comment on the 6 dead soldiers? ABC News.
One of the worst, most fake, most corrupt.
Can you give a comment on the dead
You know what
soldiers?
ABC News? I think it's maybe the most corrupt news organizations on the planet. I think that they're, okay, I don't want any more from ABC.
Right here.
You're much better.
Thank you, sir. What's Israel doing to help secure the Strait of Hormuz?
What they're working with us. A relationship with Israel, that was other fake news. They were saying, oh, did I have an argument with Bibi? No, we really get along well. And he would tell you we're leading the whole thing. And I can say it or not say it, it doesn't matter. The main thing is to get it done. But my relationship with Bibi Netanyahu is, I would say, extraordinary, actually.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you called for the people of Iran to rise up, overthrow the government, what's going on?
Yes.
You haven't done that. Do you expect?
What's going on there? Have you not seen the videos of them celebrating in the street, praising Trump's name in the street?
Violent and vicious, and that's the leadership and the people right under them, their military or their police. And they've notified everybody, and they put out statements that if you protest, you're going to be shot and killed. The protesters have no guns. And I know you're a brave person, but I don't think you'd be protesting. And so I think it's very hard for them to protest. I fully understand it. They said, if you protest, you will be killed. A week ago and 2 weeks ago, they killed 32,000 protesters, at least. We think the number's much higher than that. They shot and killed 32,000 protesters.
They hung them too.
Enthusiastic and want to see a change because they've destroyed the country. The people that are running it destroyed the country. But think of it, they shot and killed much more than 32,000 people.
40,000.
Now they put out a notice 2 days ago that we're going to shoot and kill any protester. And they don't have guns, meaning the protesters, they have no guns. So I can fully understand why they're not doing it. Oh, one other thing that was AI generated, they showed about 250,000 people in a square saying how much they love Khomeini. Totally AI generated. It never took place. The media knew it didn't take place, but they built it up like they have great support. They don't have support. And that whole rally that they had 4 days ago, that they said was fake. It was AI generated. AI can be very dangerous. We have to be very careful with it, but the rally, because I was actually surprised to see, because I know how much the people hate this leadership. This leadership has destroyed the country. The rally that everybody, including ABC Fake News, your network is the worst, but everybody put that rally on like, oh, and even I was surprised. I looked. It turned out, I found out today, it was a totally AI-generated fake news story put out by news organizations in the U.S. and elsewhere. And honestly, they really shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Mr. President, are there any diplomatic talks going on between the U.S. and Iran at all right now?
Yeah, we're talking to them.
What are the
but I don't think they're ready. But they're getting pretty close.
watching you, man.
First of all,
I already liked and subscribed.
nobody even knows who you're dealing with because most of their leadership has been killed, as you know, right? So I don't even know that we want to make a deal.
Mr. President, you mentioned that Iran's
But they want to make a deal badly, yes.
Mr. President, you mentioned that Iran's military has been decimated economically in other ways.
Check the comment I
Are you
left
ready
too.
to officially declare victory?
No, I don't want to do that. There's no reason to. I think I'd just say they're decimated, but I wouldn't do that. I think that we've done damage to them right now. If we left right now, it would take them 10 years and more to rebuild. But I'm still not declaring it over. Our military is incredible. The job they've done is just incredible. And the problem is that when you look at fake stories written by you people, written by and generated by AI, it's incredible. And I just wonder, like Jeff, you know that these are fake stories. Did you know that the rally of 250,000 people, the supposed rally, was fake? Did you know that?
I saw the reporting on it.
But you wrote about it. You talked about it, and you knew it was fake. It was AI generated.
No, I didn't know it was fake, sir.
You did. You knew it. You knew it.
Sir, have you talked about
anybody that knew the country knew there's not 250,000 people willing to stand in a circle and say how great Khomeini is. Okay.
So are you unhappy that you talk about the military objectives?
Yeah.
What about political leadership in Iran? What type of leadership
We have
needs to be?
people, some are dead, but we have some people that we think would be good. I mean, we'll see about that.
Is that
it's something we talk about. See what happens.
Sir, have you talked about selling oil futures?
5,000 Marines and sailors. Can you say why you're
very obnoxious person. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I wanted to ask if you talked about about selling oil futures as a way of capping prices, trying to keep prices down at the pump.
The prices are going to come tumbling down as soon as it's over, and it's going to be over pretty quickly.
Do you have any concerns about the political impacts of this? I mean,
I have to do what's right. You know, political, I'm sure everybody has concern. I have to do what's right. I can't say that, you know, gee, I don't want to have any impact on oil prices for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 months, and we're going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East and beyond, right? Because, you know, they were going to blow up the Middle East. If I didn't terminate the Obama horrible deal, the Iran nuclear deal it's called, if I didn't terminate that in my first term, they would have already had a nuclear weapon, and they would have used it immediately upon getting it. And if I didn't send in the B-2 bombers to bomb the hell out of it and obliterate, and that's what it was, we obliterated that site and stopped all their potential nuclear. If I didn't do that, you would have had Israel and the Middle East hit by nuclear weapons.
Maybe, right? Maybe. But I see a lot of people bitching and whining about, I thought we obliterated the nuclear site. You know, they can rebuild, and you know they probably had stuff elsewhere. And at the time, current intelligence would lead us to these spots. So at the time, based on the intelligence we got at the time, we certainly could have obliterated it, and then they certainly could have come back from it, or we may have discovered new intelligence that led us to understand that they've got stuff elsewhere. Now, one of the diplomats of Iran stated 2 weeks before this attack that they had enough nuclear material to make 11 nuclear bombs. That's good enough for me. But nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to talk about that.
The entire Middle East. And that was their plan, take over the whole Middle East. And it failed with the nuclear. And then they had thousands of missiles. And for the most part, largely, we've now destroyed those missiles. Thank you very much, everybody.
One other
Thank you.
topic. Tell us about Cuba. You're talking to Cuba. What do you want to hear from them, and what is that risk for them?
I am holding Cuba. Cuba's a failed nation. Cuba also wants to make a deal. And I think we will pretty soon, or either make a deal or do whatever we have to do. We have a lot of great people that happen to vote for Trump. Not that that matters, but we have a lot of great people from Cuba that were violently and viciously thrown out of the country, and worse, their families were killed. And so we're talking to Cuba, but we're going to do Iran before Cuba.
Do you understand the significance of what Trump has done lately. Like it or not, do you understand the significance? Do you understand the significance of Venezuela? Do you understand the significance of the talk of Greenland? Right or wrong, that's not what I'm going to get at here. My point is the strategical significance of these places is unreal. And very many places that you get your news from, they're not even touching anywhere remotely near the reasoning behind this. The reasoning behind this, Venezuela was an ally of Russia and China. Greenland, owned by Denmark. Denmark has sold rights to a lot of the rare earth minerals to China. Okay? Both of these places are in the Western Hemisphere. Both of these places, if allowed to continue the way they were going, would, for one, destabilize the petrodollar, which, I don't know if you know, but that's what all oil in the world is usually traded from. Now, Russia's goal was to change that to the ruble or whatever monopoly money they're using over there. It's the ruble. They had deals in place with Venezuela to get that oil and buy it in rubles. Now, what would that do to the petrodollar? Let's see. The strategic significance of these two places cannot be overstated. Now, with the Strait of Hormuz closed, do you realize what that does to China? 90% of China's oil comes through there, comes from Iran. Okay? Now, we cut off 20% of the world's oil supply from the Strait of Hormuz. We didn't close that, so let me be very crystal clear on that. It's closed. Where do you think China now is going to get oil? And what currency do you think they're going to buy this oil in? It ain't going to be the ruble. It's going to be the petrodollar, baby. People that don't understand the significance of these moves that Trump has made have vastly underestimated his reasoning, and your news sources are not going to tell you this because it's their job to report anything negative they can, and let's hold off on the positive. I saw somewhere where there was this guy who worked for Vice, the channel Vice, right? And he contracted with ABC, and they had a program. They had a program known as God. It was just so blatant. There's no way I'm going to be able to find it in my feed, but yeah, ultimately, the way these news organizations work is they have their advertisers that buy views. They need a certain narrative to be pushed. And when asked if that meant that they were going to not straight up lie, but leave out details for the sake of these advertisers and what they sold these advertisers when they would sell them 500,000 views, okay, on their product. The CEO of ABC outright said, yes, that means omitting, pertinent information. Now, if you also, I'm sorry that sounds very fractured because I don't have all the information in front of me and I don't want to misquote. To further my point, did you watch the Joe Rogan with Mark Zuckerberg? Now, this has nothing to do with your partisan biases. Okay. When Mark Zuckerberg got on Joe Rogan, he very deeply explained a very complex conversation about how during the Biden administration they were pressured. They got phone calls from people of his administration screaming at them, telling them to take down and block certain posts that were pro-Trump or pro-Republican, regardless of the truth. So that's when you had fact checkers that were incorrectly fact checking things and omitting the truth. As long as they were pro-Republican, Mark Zuckerberg admitted all of this. He admitted all of this. And that's why he got sued by the Trump administration. He paid out. And that's why they did away with fact checking on Facebook. Now, everybody on the left loves to say, oh, they're bowing down to Trump and they're omitting fact checking. It's the nomenclature, man, the wording. When you use the terms fact checking and they say they got rid of the fact checkers, it sounds like we're getting rid of the truth. No, because the fact checkers weren't doing their job correctly. They were very much censoring the truth. And Mark Zuckerberg admitted to all of it when he was on Joe Rogan. Now, there's plenty of people on the left, they won't even watch that because it's Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan had Trump on. It's unfathomable to me how people would just deny, straight up deny information because of the source. It is so pig-headed and ignorant. It just makes me fume. But yeah, I would suggest anybody of all colors, red or blue, to go watch that Joe Rogan with Mark Zuckerberg on it for yourself if you don't believe me. But he admitted to it. Mark Zuckerberg straight up admitted to censoring the truth and pushing BS when Biden was in office. And then they said a lot of other stuff that did allude to the election being, I don't want to say stolen, but highly influenced. Let's just say that. You can make up your own mind. All I do is ask you to take in the information. You can make up your own mind. I'm not going to push you in any direction except for the truth. I will always push you in that direction because the truth matters. The truth matters. And it hurts me. It really hurts me when people deny information because of the source. You know, I get it. If you're on the left, Fox News got busted lying that time. And yeah, every news source has been guilty of what they want to cite. Every single one of them. But they only ever want to point out, that's what Fox News does. Yeah. Uh-huh. As if they don't all do it. But that's the way it works. Whenever a Republican is in office, you can count on all the liberal media, including all the late night talk shows, the morning talk shows, all of it. You can count on them delivering half-truths and propaganda. However, when there is a Democrat in office, you can pretty much count on them being, I'd say, 75% honest. Then you can count on the conservative media sources bending the truth a bit, pumping up their propaganda. That's just how it goes. Whenever somebody's in office, the opposite news force goes in propaganda mode. That's how it is, how it always has been, and that's why you shouldn't watch any of them. None of the mainstream media. Either none of them or all of them. And if you're going to watch any of them, you should watch more of them than just your side. Quit stroking your biases and take in the most information you can. Look for the common denominator. That's the easiest way and the only way you're going to get to anything resembling truth. And that's why places like YouTube and Rumble are so important. Because on YouTube and Rumble, you have the average person, the regular guy. Now, while a lot of these people may not be as plugged in to some of these information sources as the media may be, but as soon as we get a hold of it, you can bet your ass that we're going to disseminate it more honestly than anybody in mainstream media. All right, that's my rant. Let's go back to the news.
Weapons development program, and you combine those, and then that's a significant threat. So yes, it takes out the space concerns that Iran might have in their development, but for me, the bigger concern would be the technology used for intercontinental ballistic missile development.
I want to talk a little bit about the threat from the IRGC. I read that statement here
Of course
that
they
was
threatened
broadcast
him.
over on Iranian state television, essentially saying they are going to hunt down.
Dude, the shit they broadcast on their TV, they've been broadcasting for decades. They've been broadcasting death to America for decades. They've been threatening to kill American leaders for decades. They have billboards on their streets that say death to America, okay? Do you think this changes anything? They're threatening Netanyahu. They've been threatening Netanyahu for decades.
GC threat is a serious threat. You know, they are going to pursue and they are going to look at opportunities to assassinate Netanyahu.
Of course they are.
Iran has reiterated its threat to President Trump. So when you look at how this organization,
They also
the
threatened
IRGC,
Trump.
And then the sub.
Are they capable of pulling this off? Please.
Have networks.
I mean, we shouldn't underestimate them. Don't get me wrong.
Helping them target
but their entire military is a joke compared to the United States. It is a joke.
But then across Europe, you see an extensive Quds Force network, IRGC network across Europe. So this is a legitimate threat, and it's one that should be taken into account. In addition,
Drop
to
a
that,
like. I give
when
5
look at the
likes. I'll take a
United
shot.
States,
Happy St. Patty's Day.
You hear a lot of talk about sleeper cells.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
But you have known Iranian intelligence operatives in the United States operating, I won't say freely, but we have a counterintelligence, counterterrorism focus from the FBI that's trying to follow and locate these. So you have a legitimate threat.
Oh, dude, they're so
I
on
even
it.
go to South America. You know, before we took down Maduro out of Venezuela, you can look at the fact that Iran and the IRGC, along with Lebanese Hezbollah, were all active inside Venezuela. So inside our theater,
You're damn right they were.
Personnel and operatives.
This is what the average person doesn't understand. The average person, all they see is the BS that they put on your news. The average person doesn't understand the strategic significance of Venezuela in the current conflict that we're in. The average person isn't aware of anything beyond parroting back what their BS news brings them. We'll go over to Newsmax.
Senator mentioned there that, of course... Sorry, please, tell me.
No, continue. Tell us what you're seeing right there in Zama at the Strait. What's happening right now?
Well, Tracy, look, as the senator was mentioning there, of course, there is a lot of pressure from the US now to get warships to these waters behind me because the Strait of Hormuz pretty much still remains in the Iranian military's control, and they aren't really letting the ships through to the levels that we would usually see. Around 20% of the world's oil usually passes through these waters behind me, Tracy. But over the last few days, we've only just seen a trickle of vessels, particularly oil tankers, passing through, some going to China. Over the last 48 hours, we've seen about 12 ships pass through to China, which is full of Iranian oil. Then we've seen one ship go to Pakistan today and a couple of ships heading over to India as well. So there are very few vessels passing through, but Iran has explicitly said that we will only allow ships through who are essentially our allies, people who will not cause any aggression. Iran. And
yeah, you know, Thailand sent a ship through there last week, and they shot at Thailand's ship. Thailand doesn't give a fuck.
Put essentially an army of countries together to bring their warships over to these waters in order to get back control of the Strait of Hormuz. Look, in all honesty, we have to be clear here that army of countries isn't really going down
strategy,
as I think.
But it's about the only strategy that they have, Iran has to use in their counterattacks against the United States. Militarily, they know they cannot confront the United States or Israel one-on-one and expect to win. So they're going after the softer targets they can. And while I know some are being shot down,
they're
all
cowards.
It takes is one of these ballistic missiles or one drone to get through and cause some damage or hit a lucky strike like he had, you know, at the airfield this morning, hit a fuel depot. So that's going to continue, and it's trying to bring that economic pain and that diplomatic pressure on the U.S. and
drop a like and follow. If I get 5 likes, I will take a shot. Every 5 likes, I will take a shot.
Trump, he is urging several different countries there, about 7 of them, to send warships, quote unquote, over to the Strait of Hormuz to essentially keep it open and to fight against Iran. Of course, Iran wanting to close it down. We've heard from several countries in response. Australia said they're not going to do that. This morning, we heard from British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who essentially said the same thing. Other countries yet to really respond here. But what does that say, that President Trump wants this, but those other countries not really willing to do it?
Well, I'm a little disheartened by what the British and what the Australians are saying at this time. You know, they do receive oil from this region. So, you know, it would be in their economic interest to open it up. But they're going on their belief, and what they're focused on right now is they didn't start this, so, you know, they don't really owe anything to commit to supporting this. I know France is looking at options to go in there and support, but when you look at escort operations, they are very challenging. The U.S. Navy cannot do it alone with what we have in theater. You know, we have an offensive operation underway. We can't stop the offensive and then begin escort operations. They're very complex, very detailed. You know, it takes several ships per convoy to work through the straits to defeat the threat or the possible threat coming from Iran. So we need to get more shipping in there.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. Nope. The hell is that? Let's see what Yahoo's saying. We've been over here.
Tomorrow. But the longer the conflict goes on, the longer it will take to normalize, because what you're seeing as contingency measures are releases of strategic petroleum reserves in the U.S., in Europe, in China. Those are just an exchange, right? You're putting more barrels out today, and eventually you're going to want to refill those reserves. So that will keep prices higher for longer than they would have had otherwise. The second aspect of this is what I mentioned, the shut-in of the production. The longer it's shut in for, the slower you have to ramp up that production. Oil is it can be very delicate. You're trying to balance several elements below surface, and the longer that well is shut in, the more you have to worry about the degradation of the equipment, of the degradation of the reservoir, and bring it slowly to make sure that you are producing in a sustainable way. So today I would say probably 2 to 3 months to normalize, but the longer it goes on, the longer it will take.
So Fernando, let's talk about what investors should do with all of this information, right? Because we've already seen energy stocks have just been ripping higher even before this war began. And now the XLE, the biggest energy stock ETF, is up more than 30% just this year. Yeah. So I know there's sort of a debate about how much further it could go up. What do you think? Do you think that most of the gains are behind us now?
I think there's still gains to be had.
You're damn right there are.
We have been advising for folks to go onto higher leverage, the marginal suppliers, so small caps, mid caps, but that have inventory room. So we like Matador, for example, ticker MTDR. And we think there are still some gains left. We are always going to look at how the fundamentals are moving on, and also the flows are moving within the broader market. The biggest fear we have here is not that it normalizes tomorrow or the conflict ends tomorrow, as I said, but is that as oil prices remain above $100, as fertilizer production also costs get higher, the consumer itself will get squeezed, and that will lead to demand destruction.
Demand destruction means people just stop buying. That is demand destruction, in case you didn't know.
Voting, we are the only country in the world that allows this. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization, that is, of our children. 90% to 9% ish.
Mutilization is not a word. It's just mutilation.
America Act. Okay, a lot to pack in there. But your reaction to the president's X post?
Which one are you asking?
Okay, Jim, that one's for you.
I'm sorry. No, it's all common sense. Look, everything that's in that bill is common sense. It should be something that should be very easy to pass. But again, it's a political year, so you're going to see Democrats stand back and come up with reasons why they cannot support it. It's common sense.
Yeah, which they have. I'm getting sick of this argument, honestly. Getting sick of hearing about it. But that's what they do. That's what their job is. The news is never there to inform. Their job is just to piss you off. I'm firmly convinced of that. I am looking for some more news going on. Okay. What's everybody's holdings looking like anyway? Who's holding what? I would love to go looking around at whatever you want me to go look around at.
Josh, you're quite welcome, and thank you for having me today.
And I want to let you know here, we were tracking this morning as the U.S.-China talks were taking place. This was all about trade. We actually heard just moments ago, very briefly, from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, as well as Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade representative. Those comments only about 2 minutes in length, but for you here right.
I'm going to go have a smoke.
Happening
this
there
is boring.
On the U.S. and China talks.
Expect the leaders to be talking about when they meet.
Great. Let's please move to the next question. I believe it's AFP. Gentleman to the right. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, Mark Landler with the New York Times. I'm just wondering whether you've been made aware of any Chinese retaliation in the wake of the 301 investigation, and did the investigation and or a Chinese response come up during the 2 days of talks?
Well, there were very detailed discussions in terms of the new tariff authorities we will be implementing. It's the 122. We discussed the USTR and Ambassador Greer's investigation, but in terms of retaliation, as I said, there's great stability in the relationship, and the purpose of these meetings is to prevent any retaliation, as we saw this time last year.
And I would say we started these talks really by giving them a preview of what we're doing on U.S. trade policy as we adjust to the Supreme Court. Remember, the president's trade policy hasn't changed. Our tools may change, and we're conducting these investigations. We don't want to prejudge them, and we had a good conversation with our counterparts about that process.
Great. All right, guys, we have time for one last question. I'll take it from, I believe that's AFP. Yes.
No, I am with the Epoch Times.
Very good.
Okay. Again, Cashapp from the Epoch Times. I wanted to ask you if you have discussed about the war in Iran, aside from the question of the Strait of Hormuz, and then, if so, what did your point of view say?
Well, again, China receives about 50% of its energy needs from the Gulf, so there was a discussion of that, but these are economic talks. We're not the State Department. We're not defense minister to defense minister, so we talk more about the economic ramifications, and we encourage the Chinese. The Chinese have cut off exports of refined products and fertilizers, and we encourage them to be good international partners.
All right, guys.
So, one more, if I can, just briefly.
Sorry, guys, we do have to get going right now. This is going to be the end for today.
Sorry, just briefly, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Secretary, sorry, you talked about the possibility of the president not going. Would you say now that basically as long as the war continues, that the commander-in-chief can't leave the country, can't go to China?
No, that's not what I said. I said if it is postponed, I said I was making it very clear that if it is postponed, the reason it would be postponed would not be because the president insisted on the Chinese taking an active role in the Strait of Hormuz.
Great, thanks guys, we appreciate it. Have a good.
All right, wanted to play those out. Again, moments ago there you heard from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, as well as the U.S. Trade Ambassador Jamieson Greer, both talking during those talks between the U.S. and China taking place right now over in France. If we get any more comments during all of that, we'll make sure to bring those to you here, as we always do, on Live Now from Fox. We're going to head to a quick break at 9:34 on the East Coast and 6:34 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and as we head to break, we take a live look at the stock market right now. The Dow in the green, up about 0.71% or 340 points. We'll be right back in 2 short minutes. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 9:37 on the East Coast and 6:37 on the West Coast. I want to take you out to this post here just coming in from President Trump on Truth Social. As you heard Caroline Leavitt say a short time ago, a news conference today will be held, according to Trump, prior to the Trump Kennedy Center board meeting. He says thank you. And according to Caroline Leavitt, that will happen sometime, she says, during the, quote, lunch hour. So we'll bring that to you as we get that news conference into the room right here on Live Now from Fox. I want to get you back to some of the big stories that we are covering here at this hour. Take a look at your screen as the FBI does remain on high alert after 2 terror attacks in one day amid the U.S. war with Iran. The FBI says Ayman Mohammed Ghazali rammed a vehicle into Temple Israel, a synagogue in West Bloomfield, Michigan, outside Detroit, then drove down the hallway, exchanged gunfire with security, and took his own life. You see the video from the scene there on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, investigators say Ghazali targeted the Jewish community after his 2 brothers, niece and nephew, were killed in an Israeli strike in Lebanon. Now, the Israel Defense Forces responded, saying that one of Ghazali's brothers was actually linked to the Hezbollah terror group. That same day, the FBI says Mohammed Jallo opened fire in a classroom at Old Dominion University in Virginia, killing the director of the university's ROTC program and wounding 2 other people. Before shooting, investigators say that suspect yelled, "Allahu Akbar." A lot to discuss here as the FBI, I mentioned, does remain on high alert across the country. Jeff Wenninger is a retired Los Angeles police lieutenant, the founder and CEO of Law Enforcement Consultants, and the author of On Thin Ice. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this morning.
Oh, you're welcome.
And Jeff, first off, I wanted to ask you about the terrorism link here, because that's something we heard about from law enforcement in both states, Michigan and Virginia, very, very quickly there. So when these are linked to terrorism, what are maybe some of the extra resources that are put into an investigation like this?
Well, first, it's important that people understand what actually constitutes a terrorist incident. And that's an incident where you have violence, and the intention is to instill fear for a particular political motivation. And in these two circumstances, that is the case. Now, when you have terrorism involved, you're going to be involving the FBI, who oversees the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And what is the Joint Terrorism Task Force? What that is, it's a multi-jurisdictional entity where it's broken up into teams where you have local, state, federal, as well as international resources involved in the integration of multiple levels of intelligence that is being gathered and then ultimately assessed and evaluated through data fusion.
And of course, you know, we're watching all of this, we're waiting on the investigations. And of course, how does it kind of change things when you talk about the fact that you have 2 different terror attacks here and both of the suspects are deceased? How does that change kind of how all of this plays out?
Well, you don't have the opportunity to actually interview them to better determine the motivation for this type of activity and heinous crime. However, you also have the resources where you can look at the open source data and try to determine if there's any type of a radicalization that went on beforehand over the internet and chat groups, as well as if manifestos were left and those sorts of things. We just tend to have some type of a history for both of these individuals from the standpoint where the individual at the shooting at Old Dominion University, he had a prior incident where he actually was found guilty of terrorism activity and was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. And he was let out after 7 years. Now, he was let out back in 2024. And since then, in 2025, there has been some law through the federal government that has closed that loophole where now an individual in his circumstance would not be released early.
It's also important to note when you talk about the other incident that took place, the other terror incident, it happened at a synagogue. And we know that this was a vehicle ramming situation. How common are situations like that when you have a person ramming into a building?
Well, it's unfortunately becoming all too often. What we need to do is we need to look globally what is occurring, and what happens internationally is what we can expect to be occurring here. We have seen an increase of those types of attacks that actually are being influenced and encouraged by ISIS and terrorist groups. The reason is because it's very easy to access a vehicle, and a vehicle can cause significant damage. We saw it used just last year in New Orleans on New Year's Day, and I believe 14 people were killed as a result of that incident. So it's something that we need to be planning for and looking out for and ensuring that we have measures in place to prevent these types of incidents from occurring.
It's also important to note, according to Fox News, that it was actually the ROTC students there who were in the classroom when all of this played out. They were the ones who actually fatally stabbed that suspect. That is, again, according to Fox News reports that are coming in via sources. I wanted to ask you, how often do we see more of these bystanders who are intervening to help? Because we hear these stories a lot. It almost seems like maybe we're hearing about them more than we did in the past.
Well, what we do see is these bad actors are targeting specific entities, and oftentimes those entities will be military or people that have the training to feel comfortable responding. As well as in the synagogue, they're aware of their vulnerabilities, and they have robust security measures that are put into place, in which we saw in the reporting was a result in this ending in a much less tragic manner in which it potentially could have.
What is, I guess, your advice for people who are watching, the public right now? They're on high alert just like the FBI. What do you say to them about the importance of maybe see something, say something? It's a phrase that we hear a lot.
Well, the reality is if you see something that seems out of place, you need to say something. Without that information, then law enforcement can't take the measures to intervene and have the interdiction measures to prevent things from occurring. But most importantly, people need to be aware and take responsibility for their own safety as well. If you're going to a public event, discuss with your family members a potential rally point if something goes wrong, a means to communicate, perhaps other than your cell phones, because cell phones may not be a viable option. Looking for ingress and egress routes, those sorts of things, because you can expect that perhaps you will be separated. So there's those things that you can do to help protect you and your family members when you're going out to these types of incidents and events.
And of course, it's important to note we don't want to scare anyone. We want to educate people and just let them know about the situation. So maybe what's your message to folks out there when we talk about not wanting to scare them, wanting to allow them to live their life, but also to be on high alert?
I just bought a short for Ethereum futures because I don't think it's going to plow up here. It could continue up a little bit, but I do believe it's going to come down a little bit. As you can see, there's my short position. Took out a loan. A loan on Coinbase. Very intelligent move, let me tell you. But I'm a risk taker, what can I say? Well, look, the heat map, guys, is looking like a mixed bag. Mostly green. Mostly green or flat. I would say mostly flat. Got a lot of red in the tech sector. That's because it's been pumping for a good while. Energy and everything and oil and whatnot is looking pretty flat. I mean, there's your oil futures looking flat. Your silver futures looking flat. Oh, yeah. The dollar doing everything else is doing. Not a lot of nothing. Lockheed Martin taking a big old dump. Yeah, damn. They lost, what, 3%-ish over the day? People like Lockheed Martin and Palantir, you would expect to be doing well during wartime, and, you know, looks like Palantir's got a nice little flag forming here. That's pretty badass. Congratulations if you got any calls. You probably made a sweet penny. Astronics, that glorious name. Look at that since yesterday. Or excuse me. Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday they kicked some serious ass and they're holding on to those gains. Like I've said before, all of these are the companies SpaceX invests in, or excuse me, all the companies they buy from, their suppliers. Broadcom, they had a pretty bad day Friday. Still haven't seemed to recover much from it. ST Microelectronics, they're all over the place, aren't they? Look at this. They're trying desperately to get above this $34 mark. But I would say not bad since yesterday. Not bad. Not a bad week for ST Microelectronics and Astronics. Broadcom still needs to come on up. Nvidia. I mean, you can expect Nvidia to do these kinds of moves. I've got a couple of calls I bought that expired in 3 days, and Nvidia has just been back and forth. The whole talk of the AI, and the whole talk in the AI industry is a little bit flat too. Nobody knows what they want to do. And with the war going on, it makes everything so up in the air. Guys, be mindful of your trading practices, because while there are some short-term buying opportunities, ultimately this year I do expect us to have a fairly hard crash. Probably there's a lot of people that are expecting a 20 to 50% drop in the S&P, you know, the index as a whole. Just based on a lot of things that aren't really the focus right now because of this war. Mainly like, you know, jobs and, yeah, some other economic factors. I'm not feeling good today, guys. Sorry for the low energy. But, yeah, I do believe I'm going to call it. Nobody's watching anyway. Just that one guy. I love you, buddy. Come back tomorrow. I am out of here.